Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97 on ESPN Radio, and it is my pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for listening to the program. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything, but if you do go back, get caught up at your leisure. All 3 hours posted upon the conclusion of the program to Apple Podcasts. Hey, YouTubers, guys all right? Doing okay? Good to see you. Email the show if you like. JCS at 979ESPNradio.com. On Twitter, it's at JCameron Show. Man, you know, when your team is in the Super Bowl, Tom, it seems like an interminable way to get to that game. Just sitting around thinking about my team playing in the Super Bowl. A lot of people listening to the show can't really relate to that. Certainly not this year. But you know what I mean as a fellow Bucs fan, don't you, buddy? Sure does suck to sit around having all this time between games before you play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the last time we were in the Super Bowl, years and years ago, it was just that next Sunday you played the game.
Yeah,
you know,
got it on right
then.
then.
We're in Philly, you get on the plane, go home for a minute, and then head out to San Diego, I believe it was.
Sunny San Diego.
Since, you know, they're not going to invite everybody down from the media, there's not really a Radio Row, and there's not going to be extended press presence, you know, so where we could have gotten credentials.
We would have gotten
as
credentials.
a Buccaneers affiliate to cover the Super Bowl.
We would have gone down there too, Tom.
I say let's order the game to begin at 6:30 p.m. this Sunday. Let's just do it.
Are you going to special order it?
Line it up and play. Let's go.
I want the time for our guys to mend their wounds and get out there and play. So we got a little time yet to get healthy. I could also use the mental respite, you know, the intense focus that's required as a fan, Tom, for these games is often overlooked. We talk about the physical prowess and acumen of the players and their ability to execute when the pressure is greatest. What about the fans? What about those of us who have to know just the right moment to crack that next beer or go get said beer? When to go to the bathroom, time the commercial break. When do I step outside and get some fresh air? When is it that I take a deep breath and understand that this is a intense situation, but it's also the second quarter? We're going to have frayed nerves if we go at this pace much longer.
Forgotten what it's like to leave the edge of your couch in celebration for a football moment. It's been such a long time. The last time I did something akin to what I did this past Sunday for the Scotty Miller touchdown was when Stamkos scored in the Cup final, just because of how emotional that moment was.
Well, he was flying.
But I left my seat because it was, 39 yards, but it probably traveled 55 in the air for Brady.
Yep.
And so you've got time to watch the whole thing develop. And you can see
like,
Scotty
drop it.
inching behind the defender, stretching out wide. You're like, that's going to be on the money because
that's kind of open.
Oh, God, did he catch that? Did he come down with it? And then you see it is, in fact, a touchdown. Whew, that felt nice. It's been a minute. I know Brady fans and old Patriot fans, you got a lot of those. Not so much for us.
My producer for the golf show is from Boston, a lifelong Patriots fan. His name's John Albanese, a wonderful man. I did the golf show last night with the great Trey Jones from Florida State. We were preparing to have our guests, and we can see our producer on that show. They are on a Zoom call with us while we do the show. So
smart.
Yeah, so he can tell me when he wants us to cut or when I have a read, or he can point to me and all this other stuff. So we have to look at him at all times. Yeah, he'll give you the – and he knows, obviously, that I'm a huge Bucs fan, and he knew all about my fandom for the Lightning because he's a Bruins fan, and I reminded him. But that said –
we'll give you game one, Boston. There you go.
But that said, by the way, he said, get ready to celebrate. And I said, what? He goes – well, man, I'm used to this. It's old hat. It's Tom Brady. He's not going to lose, Jeff. I'm like, well, now he has lost, and he is the underdog. He's like, get ready to celebrate. Cracked me up. I laughed. I was like, I wish I had your confidence.
Yeah, pump the brakes, pal.
Yeah, Kansas City's a better team.
He won 6, but he did lose 3. So
yeah, it's not perfect. Nearly perfect, but not perfect. Yeah, it's well, and in fairness to him, 2 of the losses he played brilliantly, and their defense let him down. So. I mean, how do you throw for 4 million yards against the Eagles and lose? But they did. That said, that's not the lead. Shouldn't lead with that, Jeff. On a day like today, the people are clamoring for W's and L's. Oh, we'll get there. I shall. The schedule is out. We celebrate this moment. It is an annual tradition. Even mired in the depths of hell, football hell, we still celebrate the schedule release because we are diehard fans and we love the game, not just our team, but the game itself, and getting friendly reminders that it will return. It may be what is seemingly eons away from happening, a friendly reminder that after the winter, there is a spring. So we hold out hope. And here we are, and that little friendly reminder in your inbox, the schedule comes out. The fine folks at Florida State University encourage you to get your tickets immediately. Here's the link. But you can't wait until you see the names in the order in which they lay before you, and you think about the get-together. You think about the gathering of fans again, family, friends, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, getting together, tailgating once again, understanding that the road to hoe is long, Tom, but we will engage again. And now we know the order of those engagements, in fact, and that's exciting.
It'd be interesting to see if there is a COVID attendance bump because people are just so starving to
they're like, I don't care if we're going to lose. I'm coming.
Right. It's been years. Once something's taken away from you, that toy seems all the more special to the 5-year-old, and and that's us. Or is it that, the economy got hit so hard that maybe there's a ticket dip? I'll be interested to see what they forecast, because usually Coburn, by the middle of spring or summer, says what they have in terms of commitments for season tickets. The schedule is not awful. Some years when you have Miami as your home game, the schedule is god-awful. See, a couple years ago. But if you start with Notre Dame and you end with Miami, I won't tell you which dates because that's for W's and L's.
Oh, it's coming up.
That's not bad. That's a good way to start selling some at least 3-game packages.
Before we get to that, we should talk about the ungodly ass beating we laid on Miami last night without really even trying very hard. Well, that's unfair. They did try hard. They didn't play their best basketball last night, and yet it was over before it started, as a certain afternoon talk show host told you yesterday afternoon that it would be.
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
Again is the operative word there. Again, Miami. You can't.
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
Mm-hmm. Really quick, Tom, just before we get to all of that and the details of the game, did you know that Halsey's pregnant? Are you aware that Halsey is pregnant?
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
Oh, if you didn't catch yesterday's show, that there's a joke there. But she is pregnant. I didn't make that up, so celebrate accordingly.
I'll remember where I was forever.
81-59 is what the scoreboard reads, but more importantly, Florida State is doing things defensively right now that suggest that this is very, very sustainable, that the turnaround post-15-day layoff from COVID has seen a team reborn on that end of the floor. Now, they were always potentially very good offensively. They had a lot of guys that could hurt you. They were kind of playing up and down in that regard, but you had more faith that that would come around. Defensively is where they had to improve. Let's recall for a moment the frustration of the head coach, Leonard Hamilton, talking about at one point we may have to make some changes to the way we play defense, and he was alluding to the fact that maybe they just weren't quick enough, talented enough, fast enough to switch 1 through 5. And we wondered what that would look like. What would they do? When would they incorporate more zone? Would they incorporate more zone? What would the defensive changes be? What would the personnel shifts look like? And lo and behold, I don't know that we could have ever guessed this at this point, because Florida State, during the midst of this winning streak, has come out and just absolutely throttled people's dreams, hopes, wishes. They have become their greatest fear. Every shot contested. Shooting percentages embarrassingly low. At one point during the Clemson game, well into the game, they were shooting 14%. That's as if Florida State were playing small children from an elementary school. Last night, Miami, admittedly, without much firepower these days due to injury, bless their heart, never had a chance. But again, you look at the shooting percentage for Miami against twos, and it's pretty scary. I mean, it is a real problem. Miami was 20 of 54 from the field last night, and Florida State's defense just continues to be dominant. Top 25 against 2-point shots, and they continue to improve in every other element too. I think it's a commitment, it's a level of depth, it's athleticism, and it's length. And I think that it just feeds this offense now because you got a lot of guys that can really shoot it, and we didn't shoot all that well last night for a stretch. But they have so many ways to hurt you. You watch the continued emergence of number 24, Sadar Calhoun, who now is getting more minutes because Polite has been out. They're still going to get Polite back, and he is necessary. He's a very good player. But Calhoun played 25 minutes last night against Miami, and he is now moving towards double digits on average. So you're starting to see a guy that can really fire it from three. He's shooting 67% from beyond the arc. Okay. 6 of 9 in these last couple games, I should say.
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score and how it jives with the picture of the game that I watched. And the first thing that jumps out to me is that Scotty Barnes has 4 assists, and it doesn't give credit to what he looked like on the court.
So many good passes, yeah.
So many of them. I mean, more than a half dozen, probably. It looks like the court is like whatever's needed to happen for the game to slow down. And I get Miami was handcuffed and then some last night, but it looks like the game is slowing down for him even more. And the funny thing is, when we started the season, all the talk was about Scotty. Scotty this, Scotty that, and what can he do to replace Trent? And, look at how he's calling out the defensive sets and all that stuff. And that's great. Now, flash forward to where we are. He's coming off of the bench, right? But he's still the guy who's going to run the point for the bulk of the game. But we talk about so many other things about Florida State basketball, so many other things before we focus on Scotty. In the beginning of the year, it was, here's the most talented player we've ever recruited and brought on campus. Now, he's just a part of the fold. And some nights he might be the reason, and some nights he might not be. But it's almost like the sidebar from last night that Scotty Barnes' vision in the half court was exceptional.
Yeah, and by the way, kudos to him. We just have to celebrate the fact that you've got a kid. And again, this is part of the system now where you go out and can say no to certain 5-star kids and yes to others. You kind of have a choice. Like, does a guy fit what we're trying to do? Is he unselfish? Will he come in and compete? And even though he is a surefire lottery pick and he's about to be a multimillionaire, will he commit to the kind of unselfish play we require of all of our young men, whether it's minutes or reduced scoring because we are so deep and it could, the game plan could call for another guy on another night, right? So he has done that. Scotty Barnes comes in here and he gets asked to play, point guard, and he's making a transition. They figure, that's what you're going to need to be at the next level, buddy. This is something we're going to have you do. We think you can do it. But he has to commit to it. He has to get beyond whatever frustrations there are through a learning curve. He has to understand that on some nights that might mean that he is not the primary reason we win games. He might have to come off the bench, lo and behold, right? All of these things, and he has done all of it. So kudos to him. You get no reports of any sort of a negative attitude. Listen, I'm a broken record right now. I hear myself. I know what you guys think sometimes. You're sitting there thinking, okay, God, Jeff, another day of lauding this basketball team in a way that that describes them maybe above and beyond what they've actually achieved at this point. But I don't think there's any reason not to now. It's, again, not a search for the negative, but rather a spotlight on the reasons that they are just hammering people. These games aren't close, folks.
And you would think a 22-point win in which you score 81 points and the possession count isn't that high would mean you shoot the lights out from 3, but it's just not the case last night. They're 6 of 18. Yeah. They only took 18 of them. You know why? Because they scored 46 points in the paint.
Yeah.
They just dominated up in close.
Yeah. So they can beat you a lot of ways. Again, broken record. They can do a lot of things that teams just aren't suited to match up against. And they'll get a better test against Georgia Tech, so we'll talk about that differently, but that's for another show.
There's no doubt. Final thing on the box score. Did you see the rebound margin?
Oh, it's cruel and unusual.
It's 45 to 23.
Yeah. No, again, children.
Woo.
Small children just being slung about the building. There were moments where I was like, oh, man.
It was like, did we really need another chance? Because we had 15 offensive boards. There are times you're like, get in the half court and maybe play a little defense here.
No, I never thought that. I never did. I hope we get a third and a fourth opportunity. I'd like to beat this team by 65 points. But for Florida State, it's 6 straight over Miami. Goodness gracious. 7 straight over Florida. Goodness gracious. The rivals in this state have to be limber.
That's right.
They've got to stretch before they roll on into the TLC Double C. Really doesn't matter where it's played.
Bend over.
Tough day at the office for the Canes last night. Another glorious victory for the Noles. Here we go in mere minutes. Hang in there. W's and L's. The football schedule has been announced. It is released, and we will celebrate all things Florida State football and prospects of a better year. That's a better way to say it. A better year. Anything has to be better than last year, and it's going to be a better year for just the logistics alone, but I think they'll be better too. Let's find out how much better when we come back. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. blank. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. All right. You know, I wait all year for this. Not the actual games anymore, because I kind of know how they're going to play out a lot of times. But this way too early projection of said games and schedule release is more exciting most days than watching us give up 700 yards of offense to a Louisville quarterback who's arguably the worst in the conference. So, there you go. There you go. That's positive. Not really.
You could be pre-snap illiterate against some of our looks last year.
There aren't looks. We aren't coordinated,
just
Tom.
open dudes.
Just dudes running free. Playing with friends, and one of the fat kids got tired, decided to sit this one out. Johnny's open down the left side, and there's nobody covering him. That's our defensive game plan. Or at least the way it looks.
Johnny didn't even have to jog.
Johnny's like, I'm open. Keith's fat and tired. Give me the ball.
At least in those days, that's when the game ends because, you don't have enough players.
Yeah. Come on, Keith, get it together. Put the Twinkie down and eat a carrot so we can play longer. All right, Florida State.
Never known a big Keith. They're all usually slender guys.
Oh, I know a fat Keith that lives in town. Yeah, I hope he's not listening. I just called him fat. But he's a sizable individual. I mean, there's no, it's not debatable.
I see. Here I thought I was steering that to a safe space.
You're trying to help Keith, and you hurt him more. You got to stay out of this. I'd have left it alone.
All right, there it is.
Here we go. Cue it up, Tom. WWWLS wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost! We f***ing super lost, man!
Where do we triumph? Where doth thou fall? I think the way he says that damn it line is, I love it because it's exactly how I sound watching a game or a frustrating moment when we're sitting together or something at a game.
Yeah, the depth of our drop is 5 yards into the end zone. Really? Got to cover the back line. Got to defend the line.
Yell that out, and you go, Jeff, we're in public.
They're not trying to break the plane near the goalpost.
No.
That area before it is where the scoring happens.
The front of the line works just as well, fellas. 2021 football schedule for Florida State University. W's and L's. Here we go. On a Sunday night in Tallahassee, Florida, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish roll into town. The Noles looking much better on offense, having raised the floor. Kenzie Milton comes in, should provide competent quarterback play, consistent competent quarterback play. We've got some excitement on that side of the ball as evidenced, proof of concept a year ago, even in the midst of a poor season. But alas, it's the other side of the football that has this guy very, very concerned. Something about a lack of coordination that I may have mentioned time and again last year, and the aforementioned men running free around every turn has me very concerned, despite the fact that Notre Dame is replacing an awful lot. L.
I think Mackenzie Milton might be good to get our first 25 to 30 plays looking real nice instead of the first 15 plays before we come off a script.
How about a full effort here?
I'm talking about deep into the second quarter, offensive production.
What? Okay.
So I think it's going to be an L, but I think it'll be competitive, which is nice. I'm glad we're catching Notre Dame then.
0-1, but Florida State undoubtedly bounces back, gets their first victory of the year in front of a packed house. Fans willing it to be as the Noles win over Jacksonville State. Run away with it in the second half. That game, September the 11th, at home. Noles move to 1-1 with a W.
Boy, the running game really looks good in week 2. Unbelievable. Very, very nice. 1-1.
Critical game, week 3. Which way are we headed? Is this another one of those years where we can't get out of September with a scintilla of hope? Or do we hold on? Hold on to a little bit of hope. perhaps even late in the month, a glimmer of hope. As we go from September to October, might we be talking about a surging effort from the Noles? I say so. The Noles take out Wake Forest on the road. It's a road win in the ACC, and Florida State is suddenly 2-1, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a tough one because you'll know the way the season's going after this game.
Yeah, this is the game. I circle it. 9-18, baby.
The thing I get excited about in a game like this, very small details. I think at this point, we're going to say that Wilson kid, who's an extra blocker on the line,
He makes a difference.
huge difference because now Cam McDonald is a weapon over the middle. I still think we lose.
Oh, Lizzie.
I know.
The good news is, during our show meeting, I told Tom we would do this twice today because we're subject, like children, to the whims of emotion when scheduled day occurs. I'm not so sure that I'll feel the same in the 5 o'clock hours I feel right now, so we'll see. You've got time to look at that Wake Forest game again, Tom. I'm not sure where your
That
head's
is
at.
a real fork-in-the-road game. I'm not kidding, and it's so sad that it is, but it is.
Louisville did anything they wanted a year ago against us in a game that started so promising. An amazing play as Jordan Travis bounced the ball to himself and spun around and scored. We thought, oh, it's going to be our afternoon. Louisville's defense is still porous. After all, even this sorry version of Florida State routinely beats Louisville. Let's get us a road win this year. And we didn't. We pretty much got blown out. It was an avalanche of points for Louisville that will be avenged on the 25th here in Tallahassee. Florida State gets just enough stops to win this game by 7. Noles with a big offensive performance. Tom Lang, I got us at 3-1, sir.
Well, I don't have us at 3-1, but I don't have us at 1-3 either.
Nice.
Throw it down as a dub.
Nice.
I don't know that it has anything to do with the Wake Forest result because Satterfield over there had his own problems.
Oh, lots of them.
They got some unrest underneath the surface.
Oh, man, they're unhappy people.
I think they have a slow start to the year. This is a little spank-a-doodle-doo. 2-2.
Nicely done. Spankle-doodle-doo is a new usage. I like it. Syracuse comes to town. That's an automatic win. They're one of the worst teams in football. Get you some. Suck at Syracuse. Big win for the Noles. Ooh. Here we go. We're 4-1.
A daily double. Spank-a-doodle-doo.
Nicely done.
You don't have to talk about that game. That was
foregone conclusion. So I've got us now early into October, ladies and gentlemen, a robust 4-1. Walk around proud with the garnet and the gold on your back. Maybe even don the cap simultaneously. You're feeling so proud.
Ooh, double down.
A little double down,
4-1.
Tom's got us at 3-2, which is still, I think, a tick up. Enjoy that good start because next is North Carolina on the road, and they're angry. They're not happy with the way things turned out at the game here in Tallahassee. They were humiliated here at night with the nation watching and upset. That was surely going to be the time that Mack Brown found a way to finally beat Florida State, a team he has never defeated. But it wasn't. It wasn't. No, they lost. They lost to Florida State. They won't this time. They get the win. Florida State suffers their second loss. Tom, you've got Carolina winning this game and certainly Chapel Hill.
Yeah, I think this is revenge of the networks. I think we're going to be in prime time for that one because it was such an entertaining affair last year. They're going to cherry pick it, and they'll be rowdy and ready, and they will rumble all over us.
All right, so easy. 3-3 now, and I've got us at what did I say? 4-2.
So
4-2.
Yeah, it'd be 4-2.
Come on, Jeff, get there. UMass, the scheduled win, cost you $1 million.
$1.5 million, I think.
Whatever. UMass comes to town and
off a bye. Thanks. We'll be ready for that game off a bye. What a waste.
Plenty of time to prepare for
Oh
UMass.
My God.
Tom doesn't like it, but Tom's wrong about this because what I'm going to tell you is that ordinarily, if it wasn't just a foregone conclusion that we were going to lose to Clemson, we would see this for the opportunity that it truly is because you do not have to prep for UMass. You would have basically 2+ weeks to prepare for the Clemson game. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to compete with Clemson, and we could have 6 months to prepare for the game, and it wouldn't make a difference. So I understand your frustration, but that's not the schedule maker's fault. They're just telling us, Tom, with this, be better. Be better, guys.
They might be, but, if this was a one-off down year, I'd say, all right, we shouldn't be mad about it. But this has been our existence since 2017, man. Everybody knew post 2016 when Dalvo was gone, there ain't no chance. So they knew exactly what they were doing.
We get a win against UMass, and it's a weighty win, and it's at this point that if you're following along with me, you know we are one win away from being legitimately bowl eligible. Might it happen after the loss to Clemson? Go ahead, write it down. Boom, right. There you go. Skip it. NC State comes to town. Here we sit with 5 wins, 3 losses. Tom's got us at 4-4. Big game. November. Perhaps we get lucky enough to have a chill in the air. A chance to bounce back, lick our wounds after the loss to Clemson. I say yes, we get the win. We're bowl eligible. We kick down the door. NC State falls. Noles win. Noles win. What say you?
Yeah, it seems to be a theme that if Louisville comes here or NC State comes here, they're going to lose. And if we go up there, we're going to get our heads kicked in. So I have us at 5-4 after the dub over the Wolfpack.
6-3. We're going bowling, baby. Now the Canes come to town. We're not quite ready. I'm saddened by it. But I'll take Miami to beat the Noles in a close one. It will be evidence that we're right there, that this nightmare is close to turning around favorably for Florida State. Just not enough yet on the defensive side of the ball. 2 fingers to my eyes, 2 fingers back to you, Adam Fuller, in this defense yet again. At this point, the storylines in Tallahassee are, okay, we're better, but I think we need to make a change on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, I think those talking points will be there, but I also think that history once again tells you that Miami's a little different in November than they are in September. Usually they're falling apart by this part of the season.
What's going on here?
So I think that
buddy.
a cold November Cane comes to Tallahassee. Deliver the win. We end the schneid. Mackenzie Milton, you're not coming here to beat Clemson. You're not coming here to beat Clemson.
You're here to beat Miami.
You're here to beat Miami. In this game, it's your night.
Wow, I had you written down as an L. I'm changing
We're
that
going
to a
bowling.
W. Oh, look at this. All right, celebrate. Unfortunately, the celebration carries over. We're unable to get focused in time for Boston College. We go up to Boston. It's cold. You and I have a great time in that lovely city, but we watch an L. In my estimation.
Boy, this is a culture game because you got to have a lot of want to coming off of a big rivalry win in my timeline.
Grown-up football here.
You got to be mature enough to get on that plane and go want to play a football game. Unfortunately, Boston College defense was really good already in the pandemic. They were like the only team that coached up defense last year.
Yeah, it's true.
So we're going to lose, and it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Oh, damn it, man. I conclude the year with a loss in Gainesville to Florida. We're not quite ready yet. Hopefully they're in shambles. It's possible they're in shambles. It is possible. Sadly, I got us losing the last 3 games of the year, but let's do it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6-6 for the Noles. They go to a bowl. What say you on that last game?
Yeah, I think that they're going to be more competitive, and that'll be the
dawn
in the distance.
That you get there.
Yeah, but it's 6-6.
All right, 2 6-6 predictions. Let's see what happens in the 5 o'clock hour. Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com. He joins us next. Little W's and L's was fun. Oh, you're damn right. There it is. We're still doing this. We're still talking about the Bucs, everybody. We're still having conversations about the currently still playing Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I was talking to a mutual friend of ours this week. I said, "You want to go golfing over the weekend?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "What day?" I said, "I don't care. Sunday's fine. The Bucs are on a bye week."
It's just amazing to think
Be able to
about.
say that.
Just to say it aloud, man. We're still talking about the Bucs. There are fan bases throughout the National Football League that are lamenting their demise whenever it was, but this ain't one of them. Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website, joins us right now. Good afternoon, Lee. I think it's a pleasure to hear your voice yet again, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Not to make people say that, but I know where you're coming from. That means the Bucs are still alive, and I heard the banter between you and Tom on the intro, and it's so apropos. I mean, it's hard to believe. Number one, and number two, I wrote a draft story this week, either this week or over the. Yeah, it was this week, and in the story I mentioned how surreal that was. That it might have been the second draft story for 2021 I've written, and generally during the lost decade I had written maybe a dozen before Halloween every year.
Yeah, it was probably
And it
pretty
was
easy to do.
You know, I was thinking to myself, how cool is that I don't have a huge interest in the Senior Bowl. I am not even concerned about the draft right now or free agency because the Bucs are still alive.
You know, Lee, you wrote a story for the website, JoeBucksFan.com, about Ndamukong Suh, and he talked about how, you know, they struggled against Kansas City in that first matchup and getting off to a 17-0 lead to the Chiefs, and how it was an uphill battle from there. He kind of seems emblematic, really, of this run when you think about it. Some of the good decisions that the Bucs front office has made, Jason Light has made, where it was iffy. You were a little uncertain because he's made some poor ones, and we can bring up Swaggy Baker again and the rest of those guys. But there were always guys that you're like, I don't know, does he have anything left in the tank? Does he care? Do we hold on to him? What do we do with Jason Pierre-Paul? I mean, he's got half a hand. I mean, are we going to hold on to this guy? What's going on after the accident? And, you know, all these moments in time where you could have gone another way. But Ndamukong Suh and saying yes to him and keeping him aboard has been vital to their success. Not the most vital piece, but a vital piece. Really, it seems like all the pieces of the puzzle fit into place in just the right way. The biggest being, obviously, Tom Brady. It's a franchise celebration right now. I know the fans, we're all hugging each other, but, boy, they got to be proud of themselves. They've really made some critically good decisions that could have gone either way.
Yeah, and you're right. The decisions weren't necessarily made this year. They were made last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And you bring up JPP, and JPP is an interesting point. I don't think Jason Light will mind me saying this. I was talking to him about JPP after he had his car accident. And, you know, it was kind of iffy, to be polite, that he was going to come back physically, or if the Bucs even wanted to take the chance, take the risk of bringing him back, because there's a lot of money on the line. And you know, I asked Jason, I was like, well, what are you going to do with JPP? I mean, are you going to cut bait? Is he going to come back? What kind of condition is he going to be in? What are you hearing from the doctors? And he took a huge deep breath, had a big long sigh, and I can't remember what exactly he told me about, something along the lines of, we're banking on his heart. And I'm like, man, that's a high wire act you're taking because of his salary. And they played it perfectly. And, you know, you can make an argument maybe they're not in the position they currently are in without JPP. You could make that argument because the Packers game turned out to be very, very close. He got a couple keys back. So you can make that argument that maybe the Bucs are not here if the Bucs didn't bank on, I'm using Jason Light's words, on JPP's heart. Well, and he's got the heart of a lion. There's no doubt about it. So all kinds of, you know, smaller than Brady, of course, smaller decisions, yet important decisions, sort of high wire act decisions that turned out in their favor. That their decision proved out to be correct, and that's why they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I have to admit, you know, this has been fodder for great debate. even amongst the most astute and insightful Bucs fans, there was room for debate about yay or nay on a couple of these guys, yay or nay on making a decision to turn your back on this guy and to welcome this guy or to start anew. Lest we forget, it seems now like it was a foregone conclusion, but it was understandably debated. Do you turn your back on a kid who just threw for over 5,000 yards and led the league in passing? Yes, the interceptions were the first thing out of folks' mouth, but there was undeniable skill there, and you had to know that you were getting a good version of Brady, not a version that looked, at the time that they played their final game in New England, beaten down and weak-armed, that you were going to get the guy that you had seen previous years that maybe was just demoralized and cold because he had no weapons. So all of these things, which we now look back on and say, well, that was an easy decision, none of them really were. And so I give credit to Jason Licht. I give credit to the organization. Listen, they've taken their fair share of criticism, and oftentimes rightfully so. That's why you got to give them love when they get it right. And here we are, the talk of the town, going to the Super Bowl. And it's, we've had such a wonderful dialogue since we've started this podcast for some time now, and most of the time we're talking about why can't the Bucs do this? Why is it that this late in the season we're always the ones on the outside looking in? I have not let this go by week to week, game to game, moment to moment, debate to debate. I've not let it go by without a sincere sense of appreciation. Do you get that sense down in Tampa right now, or is it all just still euphoria?
It's euphoria, but people do appreciate where we're at. Just what we were talking about earlier. I think, do you believe it? We haven't talked about the draft yet. Do you believe we're still alive? And I think there's a deep appreciation Bucs fans have. And I'll be perfectly honest. And I joke with Jason Licht about this. He was critical of me too, and I understand that. And he thought we were too negative. We get that a lot from fans. I told him, I said, Jason, this fan base has got post-traumatic stress disorder. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for the last decade. We're not used to this. We're expecting negative things to happen. We're expecting losing. We're expecting choking. This is a new experience for so many people. Give us a break a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of fans share what I share. You're expecting the worst because you're conditioned to expect the worst, and now people are expecting the best, and it's great, and it's a new experience, new feeling, you're learning something new, and so yeah, it's pretty hilarious in that respect.
I have a money question for you, Lee. Next week we'll break down the game, and we'll be a little bit closer at the strategies and what the players are saying and so all that. But I'm kind of curious, when the Bucs signed Tom Brady, I had a friend, a family member, ask me, what's the break-even point? What's successful financially for the Bucs when they make the investment in Brady and Gronk and do those things? And I said, well, look, first of all, any owner of an NFL franchise gets cut a massive check for the TV revenue, no matter what. It's like $100 million. So you're going to make money. But this year they didn't get the impact that they would have gotten because of COVID. But what would you have considered, at least in terms of on-the-field success and financial success, to be above and beyond, that break-even point? What was it the Bucs had to do? Clearly, they've done it. They're in the Super Bowl.
Well, the break-even point, it's hard to put a finger on it this year, as you stated, because of the pandemic. That throws everything off. But I think the success of the team, the winning, every player has said, this guy's taught us how to win. This guy's taught us how to prepare yourself to be a playoff team. And so in that respect, it's almost invaluable. I mean, I heard Devin White on a podcast with Will Compton and Trevor Lewan, and he was talking about Brady said, okay, if you want to be a winner, you have to do X, Y, and Z. You're talented. You guys are talented. You can win. This is how you win. I don't know how you put a price tag on it. So, obviously Brady's short-term, but all these guys that are long-term, Devin White, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Carlton Davis, and we can go on and on, Tristan Wirfs, guys that are going to be here for the long haul. It's something they just learned as young players, not as players in their 40s that are only going to be here a year or two longer. And so I don't know how you can put a price tag on that, because that's something these guys are going to carry for the next decade. And that's going to reverberate with new players coming in, new draft picks, new free agents. So I don't know how you put a value on that other than to say that's probably invaluable. If there was no pandemic, obviously Brady would have put fans in the seats. Obviously, more people would have watched games. Obviously, more gear would have been sold. More people at the games means more parking revenue, means more concession revenue. It mushrooms from there. But as far as the team impact, it may be invaluable because, again, the guys like Murphy Bunting, Devin White, Tristan Wirfs, they're going to carry the knowledge they got from having played with Brady and having won with Brady. They're going to carry that on for a decade.
It's a perfect way to end our conversation for this week, Lee. Love it. Appreciate it. Be well. Enjoy it. I'll talk to you again next week.
All right, man. Have a nice time, guys, and thanks for having me on, as always.
Absolutely. Take care. Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com. Tom, funny, we were just talking about it. Lee doesn't know what we were talking about before we had him on, so we were talking about this, right? Name the times in your lifetime. Maybe this is the first one. Maybe this is the first time. Because I asked this question in my golf show to Trey Jones. For people listening in the Tampa area don't know, or wherever you're listening, I do a golf show on SiriusXM with the head golf coach at Florida State University. He's Coach Brooks Koepka and many other great players. Anyhow, I asked him one time because I get tired of hearing announcers say, well, he's just got to learn how to win, or this will help him to learn how to win. I don't know. If I go out and shoot 65 and somebody else shot 63, I don't think I choked. I played winning golf. I just didn't win. So this can come in a lot of different ways, but I hear people say all the time, well, they don't know how to win. This guy will teach them how to win. I think it's true with Brady. I think it's absolutely true. Like, when was the last time you could pinpoint a guy and say, he's got the secret to winning above and beyond his ability? Like, when you look at certain players, they're just transcendently great athletes, preternaturally great athletes. They can't be beaten because they're bigger, stronger, faster than 99.9% of the people they're playing against, let's say. But then there is the situation where you have a guy who is an outlier in every way. Tom Brady is not an incredible athlete. He is obviously incredible all-time great quarterback. But he is a guy that has been to the Super Bowl now, double digits. You're talking about 11. You're talking about, 10 times. You're talking about winning 6, could be 7 Super Bowls. There is something that you carry with you at that point, having been there, done that, and succeeded time and again into the locker room, right?
Yeah, okay. So what I'd say about that is he was taught how to win by the Patriots franchise.
Right.
He didn't have it just magically. Where were his college titles? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't come in and throw for 4 touchdowns a game when he relieved Drew Bledsoe way back in the day. Like, that's not what happened. He managed the offense.
Why, he understood enough to know they had a great defense when he first took over. Yeah.
He knew how to manage things. And listen, he was beyond his years, given the lack of experience, for being able to manage the moment. That's fine. That's fair. But, like, learning how to win, I mean, if you look at his career arc and, like, when he took over the reins of helping them win, of being the reason
becoming
they won,
the reason they won.
It wasn't instant.
No.
It wasn't instant for him.
You're right.
So he needed to learn a little bit. I think that learning how to win is all about preparation. Like, I can tell you, at certain benchmarks I cleared, I'm sure it's the same for you and for anybody out there, whether you're a high school athlete or college athlete, or somebody who, like, works out on the weekends and you're going to break your personal record.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Go for a jog.
How do you break your personal record? You put yourself in the position over and over and over and over again. And sometimes you fail, and most of the time you fail. And then there's, like, one opportunity, one chance where it's like, oh, I've been here before. Don't do the same crap that you've been doing before. First time I ever shot in the 70s in golf. I remember, always on my home course, Landsbrook over Palm Harbor, on the 8th hole. It's a really easy hole. If you ever played the course, super easy. I'd choke, 10, 15 times in a row. Or if I didn't, I get to 9, and then I choke there too. And at some point, you put yourself on the tee box enough, you're like,
enough is enough, right?
Right. Or I prepare for a certain shot to help me in that moment. Brady teaching the Bucs how to win has been connected to the first bad practice, quote unquote, that they had.
Yeah,
Bruce
and that's
Arians
been brought
telling
up.
the story. And he said it was a good practice, and Brady said not good enough.
Yeah.
They learned how to win through preparation back in preseason. It's not about something in the playoffs where he's like, okay, flip the switch, guys. It's not like that.
No, what I think is beautiful, too, is that for as bad as he played in that second half, he really set the tone and made the whole thing possible by being utterly brilliant in the first half. He was the calming effect that they had to have on the road against a great Green Bay team, walking into Lambeau Field and being that sharp on third down, not just to continue drives, but making those plays and setting a tone, going right down the field and scoring first, letting it be known that we're not intimidated, we're here to play, and you're going to have to rise to where we're at. That's all of that experience. That's all of that know-how. That's all of that intelligence.
So, but you still have to shake off the jitters a little bit too, because I mean, Brady doesn't miss Evans if something's not up. You know, like the one that goes off his hands, it's picked off, and like you still have to shake it off, even if you're the GOAT. Like think about those first 3 third downs on the first drive where you score. That first throw is a great one. Evans has to make a hell of an adjustment and catch it just the right way in order to be able to come down with it.
But it is a good throw.
Of course it's a good throw. But, you know, like Evans hasn't been in that situation before in the NFC Championship game in Lambeau. But he has to go make that catch. It's just, I think it's about preparation over and over and over again. And I can even relate it to the other podcast I do for Joe Bolts fan. In Game 5 against the Islanders, the Lightning started gripping their sticks tight. They could see the magnitude of what they were about to do, which was get to the Cup final, because they lost in Game 7, most of these guys, in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals a couple of times. You could see the magnitude of the moment was starting to scare them. And then in 6, they did it again, but they got through it. And once they got past it, it's like Katie bar the door, man.
Yeah, now
because they've
it's
gotten
on.
over their fears. Brady helps players clear their own self-fears. That's what he does, and he's a magic man. Not with his snake water, but just with his preparation.
We can't get a whole show in. You're not going to get a whole show in without you taking a shot at the snake water. We'll wrap up the Scuttlebucks in a moment. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Doesn't feel like a Thursday. You know, I can't get the feel for the day. I thought yesterday was Thursday. Feels like today's Tuesday. Like we've got a long way to go, but we don't. That's a bonus.
I almost didn't hit the button in time. I got lost. I was looking at Brady's game log and all of his postseason games in his career.
In history, huh?
He's had some duds. Some real bona fide
you're playing-
duds.
Well, first of all, you're playing great teams.
I know, but
you're seldom going to find somebody who's had nothing but good games in the postseason. You're likely going up against somebody who has a legitimately awesome defense at some point. And he did go against the Ravens and others for a lot of those. So that doesn't surprise me. By the way, we're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. We're also on Twitter at @JCameron Show and YouTube. Hello, YouTubers. Hope this finds you doing well. Email the show, jcs@979ESPNradio.com.
There's a note for you on the fly. So this 3-interception game against the Packers was the 4th time Tom Brady's done that in his postseason career. He's 3-1 in those games, oddly enough.
Yeah, you know, turnover luck and all the percentages and all that. You know what's weird is like that particular game strikes me as one of the strangest because if you just in a vacuum say that somebody is going to have 3 turnovers in the second half of a road playoff game against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, on the surface you'd say, yeah, they're going to lose that game. They're going to lose that game 9 times out of 10, you know?
Well,
I mean, my next question would be, okay, if we didn't know the details, did the team that threw the 3 picks, did they have any special team scores? Did they get a special team score? Because then you would start to say this is offset by a 90-yard touchdown return or a punt block or something like that. So you'd have to try to find a way to devise some mechanism to be in the game in the fourth quarter.
Well, this is like, yeah, you could say it's 28-10 and he throws 3 picks and they're winning the game. Do they win? You're like, that's going to be close.
Yeah.
And then what if I told you that Green Bay scores 2 touchdowns that have nothing to do with the possessions on the 3 turnovers?
Yeah, that is really weird,
well,
right?
Yeah, Green Bay ran away with it then, right? Or they lost 41-38 or something like that. It's like, no. The Bucs defense rose to the occasion.
Well, you know, they really rose to the occasion with the 2 stops after 2 picks in particular, 2 3-and-outs, and they got sacks on both of those series. And when you get a sack, statistically, the chances are that you get the ball back without points scored against you on any series is very, very high. The number goes way up. That's why defensive ends get paid a lot of money to do one thing. You know, like if you are a sack specialist
right,
and that's what they're paying you to do, like, I mean, again, the stats are amazing if you get a sack in any series.
And if you register 11 for the year, you're going to get a lot of money. It's like, God, that's not even one a game.
I know. Isn't it nuts? So that's what they talk. It's hard to do. There's a guy, Brad Hopkins, who played offensive line for the Tennessee Titans for a very long time, was a Pro Bowler. B-Hop is his nickname. I got to know him in my time working with him at ESPNU, and I asked him so many questions about offensive line play, and he said that if you're technically sound and you have the requisite strength, you know, that is to say your footwork and leverage is. And he talked about the players he played with that had that. I brought up Walter Jones one time, and he was like, "Oh man, we used to study it because he's always on balance. His footwork is impeccable. He never gets caught leaning, never gets caught flat-footed, never, you know, in hand placement." And he was getting into the details, and he said, "Yeah, as long as you're strong enough, you put in the work in the weight room because these guys you're going against are Herculean strong, you know." And you think about a Khalil Mack or somebody like that.
Reggie White back in the day.
Oh, well, he just picked people up. He was superhuman.
Larry Allen could bench 700 pounds, and he said the one player that he is in awe of is Reggie White because Reggie White put him on his butt with just pure strength.
Yeah, pure strength. And then that rarely, if ever, happened, right?
Never to that guy.
No. So B-Hop told me, he goes, yeah, if you're technically sound and you have the requisite strength, you'll never give up a sack. He's like, I know guys that would go 10 games without nobody would touch the quarterback. I was like, that's crazy. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, you watch the frustration. You watch the will to fight leave their face. They try everything. They bull rush. They spin move. They take a greater depth. They cut inside. They, you know, all of it. And then he talked about hand placement on the pads and all of this. And he goes, there are guys who perfect their craft. This is what they do. And they play in the league for 12 years. They go to 7 Pro Bowls, and they give up in a given year, you know, a sack. because their foot slipped in inclement weather or something weird like that. He goes, yeah, that technique is real. And he goes, it's the greatest thing in the world to watch a player. Just you see it. Like by about the middle of the second quarter, they've tried every trick in the book. They know everything there is, and they can't get there.
That's the funny thing and the great thing in September this year about watching Tristan Wirfs and having the cut-ups, and you could see Cam Jordan and you could see Bosa.
He beat it out of him.
Right. And even if he failed on a rare occasion, you could just see how he learned. And that the next time that move was tried, it was the time that I knew immediately that Tristan Wirfs.
First game against New Orleans.
So you see the clips of his lateral agility to get out against a wide technique. And that first step off the ball being snapped, he's square. How do you get there that fast? But that's why the dude can jump out of a pool and land on his feet.
It's interesting that you bring that up because a lot of times with the offensive line film and you'll watch guys, and it is an awful lot about the footwork and technique and all of that. And then you find out the measurables at the combine, how strong is he and all of those things. When you watch a video of a guy jumping out of a pool, you're in awe that somebody could have, be in the water over their waist and still jump out onto the ledge of a pool and all that stuff. But when it's an offensive lineman, you're talking about a level of athleticism that doesn't usually marry with a 335-pound man. And so that's why when you see those videos, you hear the scouts and everybody go, okay. And you're like, yeah, so what? He can do a backflip. Great, I'm sure, because remember, we had guys that could do that.
JPP did, too.
Right. But then they're like, no. I'm talking about a lineman leaping out of a pool, 5 foot.
Right.
It's that's nuts. And then you saw the athleticism in school, and, he was at Iowa. Yeah. Different cat, dude.
That's the biggest hit of Jason's career, and he's had some big hits. I mean, really big ones and great value picks, but the way that dude looks right off the bat, that you have multiple lifers in the league that have nothing to do with the Bucs voting Tristan Wirfs to be an all-pro first-teamer. All-pro first-teamer. Now, he didn't get it. He didn't even get second team. But you have people around the country going, oh, yeah, well, he's that guy. That is a hit of hits. Because that's 12 years, as long as there's no injury, that's 12 to 15 years. Set it, forget it.
The reason that's impressive is that was as big a tackle class as we've seen in ages. So you had options, I think 7 options in the first 2 rounds at tackle, more than that. And there was legitimate debate. You had the kid at Georgia. You had lots of kids. And all played exceptionally well in Power 5 conferences. So you kind of were stuck there. Like, what do I do here? They were all really good against elite competition. Whatever it was that led you to him, and it turned out to be an overwhelmingly good decision. Yeah, you wear that as a badge of honor.
You should. Well, I think about his work in the trenches, Jason Light. I mean, we've killed him for the Aguayo kick and other things over the years.
Yeah, but Ali Marpet, obviously.
Alex Kappa you didn't think about him all year long. That's amazing.
He played really well. Yeah.
And he's another one that's D3 or whatever. Like
sucks he got hurt.
Marpet was out of Hobart. But then to trade down and not take Derwin James and go get Vita Vea.
Well, and the problem for both Derwin James and Vita Vea, they'll forever by us and by Florida State fans and people who pay attention to that draft, we compared to each other because both guys were kind of talked about in that spot. And when the Bucs chose Vita Vea, of course, as Florida State fans, everybody's like, really? What are we doing here? The problem for both Derwin and Vita is that it's an incomplete because neither can ever stay healthy. Like, when they're healthy, they're both elite.
Right, but what I'd say is he's done an excellent job of going to get safeties elsewhere.
Oh,
Jordan
sure.
Whitehead and Winfield. And even Edwards as a backup is not bad, and that's another draft
Not
pick.
terrible, yeah.
He's done a really good – I mean, overall, he always had some hits where we're like, hey, he's not terrible at the draft. When he hits, he hits big. Yeah. Like, think of Kendall Beckwith stayed healthy. I mean, that guy. Wow. You would have had Beckwith, David, and White. I still think they would have picked White anyway. But that would have been unbelievable.
I will tell you that with the Kendall Beckwith thing, that stinks for. I feel so bad for that guy because imagine you are, you're attempting to live your dream, and you've had injury problems, and that's why people were unsure about you. And then you have this season where you're finally healthy, where between college and you get out there and you make plays, and all of a sudden it's looking like a home run because the athleticism, the body thickness, the speed, all the things they said that were in there, and we saw glimpses of it, but you were too hurt too often to really be able to sustain. It comes together, and you have that year, and you're like, all right, so he hit it, he's got it, and then you get hurt, and you're out of the league. and you know you had the ability to play. You could have been, a 10-year starter or 5-year starter even. That's money forever.
Do you believe in Murphy Bunting?
Yeah, I believe in the long-term prospects of Murphy Bunting.
You believe in Carlton Davis?
The long-term prospects of Carlton Davis.
Okay.
Here's what I think.
Not 2 Sundays from now necessarily, but
Oh,
long-term.
well, I mean, listen, that's the poor Carlton Davis.
He's going to be seeing things.
I mean, that's a tough ask.
Same field, too. Same playing surface.
Man, who's covering Tyreek Hill?
Maybe that's why they changed the jerseys, so that Carlton doesn't see the same colors
Well,
exactly.
how about we not put him in man against Tyreek Hill? A little help?
Oh, Todd, what were you doing?
Well, this is the problem with the Chiefs. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. We talked about this. You run that jump zone coverage or something like that and defend an area. They've got too many weapons. They're too many smart players, and he's too accurate a passer. He'll pick apart the zone. So you gonna go to man? Good luck.
Well, if you go man with a dedicated safety for that particular player, and then for Kelsey, then maybe, just maybe, it comes down to red zone defense. But if you leave him in isolation, you don't need your red zone defense because they already scored from 70 yards away.
I was just about to say also, nobody's running with Kelsey on our team defensively. I know we could talk about Levante David. We could talk about anybody. But, look, a safety's too small and a linebacker's too big.
Well, I'm saying double.
Too slow.
You got to double them. You got to bracket it. And they did that for phases of the second half where they doubled both of those players.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, Patrick, good luck. Now, this is working for
Mecole
you two
Hardman
ways.
And,
of course,
they go
Sammy
on down
Watkins,
the list. Yeah,
I understand, and that's still not great. But at least Mahomes is a little bit hobbled, and they don't have either of their 2 tackles. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
And Vita didn't play in that
Yeah,
game.
you got to get home. You got to get home, and you got to affect them. You got to hit them. And they did that to Rodgers. They hit Rodgers over and over and over. When you get over double-digit hits, I don't care who you are, that's affecting you.
So it was great. I was able to watch the game with my sister and brother-in-law. The same sister I watched both the Super Bowl and 2002 NFC Championship game with. And my brother-in-law asks at halftime, because they just scored at 21-10. He's like, it's still Rodgers. How do you feel? I was like, well,
good. I feel really good.
That they could get there and get home so sustainably without pressure. I feel really good about the 11 points. Like, if they didn't, and it was, a tip pass or something like that.
a couple of lucky things that aren't sustainable.
Then maybe not. But
No,
the front four was so consistently getting home that you had to feel good.
Yeah, there was a lot to feel good about. I also did not anticipate Tom Brady throwing 3 picks in the second half.
If he didn't, it is
you
a
have
carbon
a chance
copy
to blow
of
them out.
Yeah.
You actually are getting at 28-10. You have a chance to blow them out. It's about to happen. It's about to happen. It's the frustration.
Because you could have gotten 35-17. I think they might have scored right away, but 35-17, they're like, well, we tried.
Peace. Have a good one. Not enough time, not enough possessions, and you're not going up and down the field against us. So, I mean, you get bogged down in the red zone against us, that's for sure. That red zone defense in some of the biggest games this year has been absolutely huge. Well, and this is the thing. I get so excited talking about it because I see some angles. Look, the Chiefs are favored, rightfully so. There's been nobody they started to cook in the playoffs, man. They did not look good against Cleveland, but there were injuries and problems there. But now all of a sudden you're like, really, this? So this is that team again. This is the explosion again. They were otherworldly against Buffalo. They're down 9-0, and it is Katie bar the door. You're screwed. Here we come. It's like the worst thing that could have happened to Buffalo was to take a lead and piss them off.
I thought the muff punt, I was like, man, I should jump on KC live all day right now, and I didn't. Dumbass.
Well, hopefully you jumped on the Knowles last night, my man. Ooh, we got to talk about
Jumped
this.
on the Canes.
That was easy to predict. They're getting to where they make bettors comfortable. I bet you there's some people with no affiliation to Florida State that are having a good time out in Vegas. They're like, got them Knowles tonight, boys. Here we go. It reminded me to bring this album up to you off the air. Unforgettable Fire is the album, but I learned something recently about the production of it, and it's really cool, and you would like it. Just an aside, Tom. Just thought I'd let you know. All right, so not a surprise last night that Florida State, and I told you it would happen, and I got some folks that made me laugh because their parents, in one case, were cursing my name in moments that we weren't playing well, and it got kind of close for a second, like maybe real early in the game. But their mom of a woman who listens to the show was like, "Damn, Jeff Cameron." And then we ended up boat racing that ass, and it was never close. And they weren't competitive. That game wasn't competitive. It really wasn't worth your time.
Yeah, agreed. It reminded me of the aforementioned. We were talking about this week, the 2013 football game, where it's like you don't play well, but you blow their doors off by 27 in that football game. And this was kind of like that, where you're not hitting your perimeter shots, but he's moving the rotation in and out so much that it's like, I don't understand. I watched the game later. I'll be honest. I didn't watch it right at 6 o'clock. I taped it, and I watched it from about 8 to 10 o'clock. And I'm seeing a couple of comments, and I got a couple of texts of people who are mad. And at the end of the first half, I don't know what there is to be mad about. They didn't play well, and they're up a bunch. And Leonard is clearly working in different rotations and experimenting with stuff. I just don't – man, we got to calm down as a fan base.
Well, we're really, really, really spoiled right now. And I mean that in a good way. I'm not admonishing our fan base. This was a talking point on yesterday's show. It's been a talking point for a week and a half for me. Guys, we're so good now that we can experiment while beating another team's ass. That we do this a lot, by the way. If you're not paying attention, notice that Ham will just try to get some guys some minutes because he can. Like, in the middle of a game, he did it against Louisville on the road. He's just like, we'll let some guys play a little bit here more than normal because I'd like to see how they react to it. Like, dude, we got to win the game. Oh, we're going to win the game. I'm not worried about that. Let me just see if this works or if this combination works. Or maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll try to get this guy a little bit more confidence and let him play through some troubles here because we're not going to lose. It's amazing.
Right. Well, and see, I would be chiding our fan base. You got to grow up and be better. You've got to be better because you've got to look at the circumstances of the game. If it's the starters that are in there and they're playing selfish basketball, they're not moving the basketball around, they're not contesting things on defense. And you can see, like, there was one point where I thought he pulled MJ in the first half because MJ didn't get back on defense. And he immediately calls timeout. I'm like, 23 might come out of the game. He didn't. But if it was like stuff like that, selfish passes, selfish plays, guys playing ISO basketball when you're trying to get a minimum amount of passes, then I fully go ahead. Be pissed. But the effort on defense throughout the first half was really good. The passes in the half court, the offense was active. They're trying to get everybody else involved. It was a problem of over-rotating, which you can do, and then also, I think, unselfishness for everybody trying to get each other involved in the game. There was nothing about a lack of effort, and the broadcaster was dead wrong talking about complacency up and down. I don't think so.
No,
I think they're experimenting.
They scored 81 points in a 68-possession game. This is ridiculous. Florida State right now, and listen, let me preface all this. Miami's terrible. And they are completely beat up, and it's really unfair to them. I mean, they could not compete in this game. They don't have a lot of their guys. I have my fun at Miami's expense, but this was going to be a long night no matter what. And listen, guys, a couple things here. And anybody who's ever played sports understands this. This isn't a lecture. You guys I'm talking about human nature. You understand this. Early on, whether it's an adversarial sport where it's one-on-one or if it's a team-oriented game, you can judge what your opponent can and cannot do. You see what they're capable of. And if early on you realize, like, for example, in the sport of basketball, we can get any shot we want when we want it, and they're very limited what they can do to hurt you, it's kind of human nature that you may have some possessions where you're not as locked in as you would be if you were facing a team that you realize early on can hurt you, that they've got players, that they've got depth, that they've got ability to kind of attack your weakness. You know, we've all been in a fight. We've all been in a foot race. We've all played a sport where we've thought, I'm too much for this guy. But we've also been on the wrong end of that where, well, this guy's got a little something. I better bring it. I'm just talking about the feeling out process early in this game. It was obvious to me that Florida State's like, oh, well, okay. Miami can't, and they weren't complacent. What I'm saying is just like Miami can't win this game. There's no way Miami can win the game. There's none. They knew that. And yet they still continue to improve. Offensively, Florida State is now a top 15 team in the country. If you're looking at certain metrics, 81 points with the turnovers we had? Dude, Calhoun is now becoming a bona fide star on this team, a scorer. He's exhibiting the kind of athleticism and freakishly quick twitch, bouncy sort of athleticism that you see when he was spastic originally. But the game is slowing down. He's getting extended minutes. He's shooting the ball exceptionally well. The last 2 games, he's now averaging nearly double digits. He's shooting 67% from beyond the arc. He's hitting 50% of his twos. Look at this guy. Look at what he's now going to be. And they don't have Polite back yet. I mean, this is really, really fun. And there's no reason you can't sit back and just thoroughly enjoy. Like, Raekwon Gray quietly has a double-double.
Right, exactly.
Just very quietly has a double-double.
Well, and if you look at Scotty's assist count on the box score, that doesn't tell you how many amazing passes he made.
Oh, he was great.
He made like 7 or 8 passes where you go, oh, my
He's starting to figure out the point guard role.
Right. And also, this is the other thing, too. Like, if you want to get a little bit angry about yesterday's effort because you're holding, the program to the higher standard, you don't run away from that kind of stuff, I understand it more in the early part of the second half than I do anything to do with the first half. Because, again, Leonard is telling you, by the way he's rotating bodies and how early he's bringing in the second line of players, what he thinks is happening on the court and what he sees and how much danger he feels. Even for Leonard, it's aggressive last night, the rotation patterns. In the second half, I can agree. Before they go on the spurt to make it 51, 33, whatever it is, Miami actually has a lot of really good looks. They just are not good enough to capitalize on those looks, and we forfeited those looks. So you could get it down to a possession at one point or another, and you could say, all right, guys, I would have liked to see a little bit more fire coming out of halftime. But if you're going to grade the performance, how can you grade it anything worse than, I don't know, a B or a B+?
Listen, we are now establishing winning streaks over our arch rivals in the state that are hilarious. What have we beaten Florida 7 in a row now? Beat Miami with 6, 7 in a row now?
6 now, yeah.
Well, what are we doing? I mean, like, you have to search for reasons to be angry right now. You're having to seek them out. There really isn't anything to be upset about, and I don't really think that many people are. I think the people that are upset are loud, but like in a given night. That's all I'm saying. I don't think even the people that were upset last night for a stretch are mad at the program. They can't be. We're setting program records every time we lace them up. It's crazy.
Clutch my pearls. We shot 3 of 11 from 3 for the first half. Yikes.
I mean, and again, I'm looking at some of these defensive numbers. It's staggering what we've embraced on the defensive side of the ball post that 15-day layoff. I mean, it's staggering how good we've become defensively.
Once again, and that was the first half for me. Like, if you look at that effort, no matter who was in there, they were completely committed. They were getting the open looks that they're used to seeing. Maybe there was a little bit of overpassing. But again, the effort and the intensity was there. They didn't mail it in last night. The only stretch was in the beginning of the second half. By and large, they were the killers that they've been. And they didn't play well, and they win by 20-plus points. That is how good and how wide the margin is against a team like Miami, the bottom feeders of the ACC, who are running out, what do you think, rotation pieces 4 through 10?
Yeah.
Like, they don't even have their top guys.
No, I feel for them. I legitimately kind of feel for Miami a little bit.
I believe that almost.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep. Shame. I hope they don't win another game this season. None.
Yeah.
I hope they lose every game they play. But it does suck to be that kind of shorthanded.
I think so outside of Scotty, who was brilliant last night, and his vision is just getting better and better. And then also his drives to the basket too, they're looking smoother and smoother. It's Malik. It's how engaged Malik is, because he didn't have a home in the rotation just a couple short weeks ago. Like within this 5-game winning streak, you're still asking the questions, where does Malik fit? Well, now we know, given the last 3 games, he is an emotional leader of this group.
Oh, yeah.
He's not afraid to talk, but then they're getting him his shots on the perimeter more often, and he's also become a force defensively. It's nice to see that he's carved out a role. I understand that Calhoun could be the guy that takes us, like, you could play an off game and have Wilkes not shoot it and Polite not shoot it and MJ not shoot it, and Calhoun's the type who can account for all of that just by himself and get you over the hump in, say, like the second round of the tournament, and he can get you past. But I think it's really important on both ends of the court that Malik has found a place.
Oh, yeah, and we wondered if it would happen given how deep the rotation was and what this group looked like and what they were trying to achieve. But, you know, Leonard always finds a way and gets to that place, and they are there now. There's just so much. I mean, Miami was, 20 of 54 from the field? Yeah, 20 of 54. That's terrible. I mean, this is what we do to people. Well, at one point in that game against Clemson over the weekend, they were shooting 14%.
Right, they had 4 field goals.
Yeah, it was just, it's ridiculous what's going on right now for Florida State. I mean, you look at these numbers of what we're holding people to in 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage. It's staggering what we're doing.
Well, I'll tell you this, too. Our mutual friend Chris sent me a note last night because he was crunching the numbers right after the game, and he said, check this out, and I'll show you the numbers during the break, but FSU is the best team in the country at guarding catch and shoots. Best team in the country. Now, we give up a lot of open ones because we collapse, and you can see the way we pack the paint, especially on drives, so there are kick-out opportunities, and Miami had a few of those last night that they missed on. But if we're going to contest your jump shot, number 1 in the country.
You can't take everything away. You know, the way you choose to play defense is you want to take away certain things, and it's philosophical. People can decide, I want to take this away. Well, you're going to leave this open if you do that, or you're going to give up more from this if you do that kind of thing. So when a lot of times people will say, well, we don't do this well. Well, that's by design. We've decided we are going to take this away from you, and if you can do this other thing that we don't think you're comfortable doing, because that's the scout, and you beat it's the Bill Belichick thing. It's taking a quarterback and making him play left-handed, forcing him to the side he does not want to go to. Well, you're taking the right side away, but you're giving up the left side. And if he makes the throws, then you doff the cap and you say, well, good on you. You beat us. But you're playing the percentages. Florida State caters to their length and their athleticism, and they have certain defensive principles that they want to take some things away. It's going to give some open looks to people in other areas. Well, that's fine because you can't take everything away.
Well, and they also know they're a little susceptible to the drive. What's an easier shot? A layup at the rim or a kick out 3?
Right. We're going to make you, and if you make that, we'll adjust.
Right.
But
that's where I think the Virginia game gets interesting because they can shoot the 3-ball this year.
Yeah.
They've got multiple players led by Hauser, the transfer, who can hit threes and rain down threes. And that's where...
Yeah, and if they're hitting those, we're going to have to adjust.
It's an atypical game. In a way, I feel like it's going to be a much higher scoring Florida State-Virginia game because we know how to beat the pack line. We know how to beat zones. I mean, we saw that last night.
We know how to beat the pack line, that's for sure.
Well, sure, Chris Mack, I mean, it's a manhandling every time.
Every time. He's got to be like, well, I guess we're going to have to do something different.
They're better at it than Louisville is, but we still know the principles and we have it. So... And we can
also,
shoot this
we
year.
can shoot.
Right. But so can they. So the odd thing is, I think in a couple weeks, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because Georgia Tech is game and they could show up on Saturday and give Florida State a run, and they're hosting the game. But I think this February 15th matchup against Virginia might be a little bit more razzle-dazzle than we're used to seeing, which makes that game even more fun because it's for the right to take the lead in the ACC in all likelihood.
In all likelihood. The game can't get there fast enough for me. I have done that thing where I'm leaps ahead here. I'm not, I'm dismissive of these other teams. You don't deserve to be on the floor with us. I'm looking at Virginia as the team that deserves to be on the floor with us, or we deserve to be on the floor with them. If you're a Virginia fan, that's the way you view it. I got it, and you have every right to do that. Everybody else, bitches. Let's go. Let's go. Let's let the big boys play. Let's let the real teams in this conference get after each other. That's exciting. And I think that's where we're at. That's why I'm dismissive of people like I was yesterday when we did the show. And I was like, well, this is not really a game. Miami can't compete with Florida State. It's not going to be close. Guys, that's who we are. We are really good at basketball, not football. Really good at basketball.
and that's okay. So the Scotty thing is only one part of it, but I think actually last night, despite the field goal percentage in the first half and the slump early on the second, the ball movement got better last night.
It did. Yeah, that's a really good point. I thought so too. And I think they just, go back a couple weeks, Tom, when I said they got to play. they either have to play at a pace that allows them to get into the high 70s or the mid 80s, or they got to play efficiently enough to reach that marker. They pretty much do every time they play now. And if they kept the pedal to the metal, they'd be in the 90s in all these games. But in most of them, they've had a 20-point lead in the second half. So, they've subbed their backups and quite liberally, I can say the word eventually. That they've done that now, so they've experimented a little bit.
Yeah, outside of North Carolina, you could have dropped 100 on Louisville if you wanted to. You could have dropped certainly 110 maybe on Clemson if you wanted to.
You could have done anything you wanted
because they had completely quitted, if that's a word.
Yeah.
They completely quit, and the official and the officials bailed them out obviously too to make the game a little bit more. I don't know what palatable. I mean that plane flight is still a quiet one on their way home. But you're right. If you want to maximize things and you want to leave a couple guys in for 27 minutes a night, we have that at our disposal anytime we want.
Well, and you may need to. You're gonna go back to the Indiana and the Florida game. He left his starters out there. He's like, I want to win this game now. I'm not taking any chances to experiment over here. We're going to get some things done.
Well, and judging by what Ira said on Monday, given what he's hearing around the program, I mean, Polite could play right now if they wanted.
But there's no need.
And they want to spread the minutes around.
And that's really worked out for Calhoun.
Correct.
That's
yes.
Really
and
worked
Malik.
out.
I mean, yes. That approach about being 10 deep, 11 deep, and committing to it, because they could have said, all right, you know what, Malik, it just doesn't fit. And that's kind of the way it was pointing. It was like, all right, it's Balsa and Raekwon. Those are the two guys that you really need in there. Maybe you could spell him with Ngome if you need it. Malik, sorry, man, it's just not trending that way. But he continues to invest. He did it with Calhoun twice in the last two games and stretches where, I know that we pull away from Clemson and we're up 38 at one point, but Calhoun's playing minutes where the game is a little bit tighter in the first half. Calhoun comes in a few minutes into the game last night. They leave him out there. Leonard's showing faith, and he's being rewarded for it.
Well, the Malik Osborne thing, very early on, I mean, relative to the total amount of minutes played in the game, you have Malik with 10 boards, and you just knew, so we're going to have two different guys with double-digit boards tonight. Raekwon got there. It's just every time you look at the stat sheet, you end up going, whoa. There's like 6 different guys here who really filled this thing up. I mean, 7 times, 7 sometimes. It's dumb.
And once again, we're a broken record, but it's every time I see it, it makes me smile. When it's Ngome just flushing on somebody right in the face, or whether it's the Vipers making a good pass or making a steal, that bench is engaged.
They all celebrate.
They have to be held back from running onto the court. They're so excited for their teammates. That is what carries you in certain nights when it's a little bit lackluster, not like last night, but in other situations, that's going to carry you, that camaraderie.
I'm going to transition in a moment to the NFL. I got to bring up something here regarding Deshaun Watson and what he's requested from the Texans. And I love these debates and these discussions that we have because I'm typically so pro-player, but I'm not here. No way in hell am I this. And we'll give you those parameters. It's kind of interesting to see how this is going to play out. This is one of the cool elements of the soap opera we refer to all the time because this is going to test the limits of player power right here or the extent of player power right here because this is a different deal than these other folks that have forced the hand. Like Jalen Ramsey forced the hand of the Jaguars. That's a different set of circumstances than what you're seeing with the Texans right now. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. they may need to do this. They may have to. You could argue they can't afford to wait for the trade because situations get worse as time goes by for them. If you're going to trade him, you got to do it as soon as possible. Because you had a season last year from him, which, Tom, you pointed out before, was MVP caliber. And now the situation is they only have a third-round pick. Like, they have nothing coming up
because
in
the
draft.
Dolphins fleeced their ass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a third, 2 4s, a 5, 2 6, 3 6s, and a 7. Ain't good. They're over the projected 2021 cap by about $20 million. They're projected to have the fewest amount of cap space in 2022 as well. So they got real other issues. There are cap casualties to be had here. David Johnson, Duke Johnson, Brandon Cooks, a lot of guys. His value in terms of being an asset that you can move in order to long-term team build and get out from under cap hell is one thing. If you think about, and that's something that the Texans have to think about, maybe doing that, because they've got real problems, and they could get a slew of picks and everything else for themselves, and they get out from under this number. But they've got him under contract for the next 3 years, and they could find the hell out of him. If he says he's not going to play, he has to be prepared to sit out to force the hands of the Texans. So that's how this works. When you get into this kind of a fight, you have to say, I won't play. All right, well, because he just signed a 4-year, $156 million contract extension in September. He's under control through 2025. He has a no-trade clause. This is an untenable situation for both parties in a weird way, because if they decide to hold their ground and say, we're not trading an MVP level quarterback, go to hell, we drafted you for a reason, and oh, by the way, we fired O'Brien because he wasn't getting the job done and he screwed us, and we understand that now, but you don't own the franchise, man, and we're paying you. We gave you your money. We care about you. He says, well, not enough to consult with me the way I want to be consulted with. Okay, well, then we get into these limits again. And I don't know what was promised him and what wasn't. He may have every right to feel that way. I don't begrudge that. He may have been lied to, as many players are. But if they choose not to trade him and he doesn't report to mandatory team activities, they can fine him $95,000 for missing minicamp, $50,000 a day of training camp, $620,000 a game for each preseason game missed. Unless he decides to retire, which he's not going to do, then he's going to lose out on potentially millions upon millions of dollars, and the Texans are going to lose a lot of games on the field, and neither side wins at all. And so it's a game of blink. I don't like the precedent, the idea that when you sign a contract in September, 4 years on, and they come to the table and pay you and extend you before they have to. Normally, we side with the player where they outperform the contract and they're not getting paid, and it's a brutal league and they can cut you the second your knee gets blown out. We always say, hey, if you got to, use your leverage, because the only leverage you have is playing or not playing. So step to them and say, look, I've outplayed my contract. Pay me like one of the top 5 players in this league like I am at my position. Well, what do you do when the team says, okay, we will? Don't you at that point kind of owe it to stick around?
Well, here's the thing. So if you're listening to the big insiders, Rappaport or Adam Schefter, and the way they're phrasing their updates, and they're talking about he's requested the trade. So I saw the phrase was used twice today, once by Rappaport and once by Schefter. What are you getting in Deshaun Watson if you can acquire his services? You're getting an upstanding citizen. That's the first thing they said. They said you're getting an upstanding citizen who's a really good guy in the locker room. What does that tell me? That tells me that the insider plainly knows what's going on here. Something behind the scenes that is complete BS. And that Deshaun is in the right. They choose their words very carefully.
Well, but there are a lot of components to this story. Some of it is that the NFL insiders know he was lied to. That's why they're protecting him. And the media will do that when they know that, in this case, one side clearly betrayed trust to the other. I'm just talking about from a contractual standpoint. And listen, let's just say I'm on the up and up, and I'm an owner of a team. I'm not one of these evil billionaires. I'm one of the rare good billionaires. I care about my guys, right? I'm what's his face with the Falcons, that owner who loves his players.
Arthur Blank.
Arthur Blank, right? Okay, I'm one of those guys. And I love Deshaun Watson, but I also had to hire a coach, and I did, and I trusted him to build the franchise, and I gave him too much power, and I made a mistake. I made that mistake. I made him GM and coach, and boy, I regret that. This isn't going the way that I wanted it to go. But I'm the owner of the team, and I've invested in this quarterback, and we drafted him, and when he came to me and wanted more money, I said, you know what? You are a cornerstone of this franchise and of this community. You're a great guy. You've done everything we've asked you to do, both on and off the field. You're beloved by your teammates. I can't let you go. You're our guy. But you know what I will do? I understand your frustration. We're losing games, and it hadn't worked out with Bill O'Brien. We're going to make some changes, and I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you right now like a top 3 quarterback because you are. And we're going to pay you before we have to. Here's 4 years, $156 million to extend you. What do you say? Oh, well, thanks, Mr. Cameron. Appreciate that. You're welcome, Sean. Thank you. And then, a few months later, you're pissed off and you want out, and I'm being held hostage. No, man.
That's a great hypothetical, but there's clearly more to it than that.
I guess.
I don't think it began and ended with, I'm going to pay you and nothing else, nothing more. I think he was told that, on the path to fixing this thing, he'd have a bigger hand in it. And listen, here's the thing. You can argue about whether a player should have that much control or not, especially one that doesn't have the bona fides of a Tom Brady, right? Because he hasn't gotten quite there yet.
Yeah.
Not even close. But what you just said in the beginning would be like, I'd almost think manna fell from heaven if I'm the owner. Because
I can get out from this hell, the cap. But
you're about to go through cap. What are you going to win? What are you going to win?
Well, certainly not going to win without a franchise quarterback, though. And
correct.
You know how hard they are to find? I mean, that's the thing you're parting with. You have a bona fide franchise quarterback who is beloved in the community. You've got everything you could possibly want, and you're now expected to just say, screw it.
But we're not going to win a damn thing with that. And we've had something in Houston, if I'm the Houston owner, it never happens. A non-quarterback who's the face of a city, and J.J. Watts, because of the relief he did for the Hurricane a couple of years ago. He was America's darling and Houston's darling.
Yes.
So I've had 2 faces of this franchise the last however many years. We've had a couple of playoff bursts. That's nice.
I was just about to say, let me interrupt here. What do you mean they're not going to win anything? This is a bad year. The year before, they should have beat the Chiefs and gone to the Super Bowl. They're up 20-something points.
Nuke Hopkins is gone, man. He's worth a lot to that team.
Well,
and now the cap implications are such that you either need to win it all this year or don't bother. And the guy they just hired out of Baltimore is 65 and never had a head coaching job before. Screams to me, rebuilder coach. I think they know what's coming.
I think they do, too. I'm not talking about what's going to happen. I'm just talking about what they've done up to this point is make the playoffs. A lot. They go to the playoffs all the time.
They have.
This is the first terrible year they've had.
Agreed, but let's just say that New Orleans had the same situation with Watson, right? And you're going to be $100 million over the cap, and you've got, problems galore over the next 5 years. Is it not better to expedite the rebuilding process and spend the chip you have in hand? It's great that I have a franchise quarterback. We're not going to be a winner for 6 more years or 5 more years. Might as well get the most I can for him right now and relieve myself out of cap hell.
My argument, when you have a bona fide franchise quarterback, top 5 player in the league at the most important position, is that a trade has to be the last resort. It cannot be a thing out of convenience that you fall into. I understand what you're saying. If they can't work it out, they can't work it out, and then they are going to trade him. I agree with you. I think that's how this ends. They're going to get a deal that just blows them away from the Jets or somebody.
Right. And they pick 2 or 3, and then you take a chance with the next quarterback.
Exactly. That's what's going to happen. I'm in agreement there. I'm looking at it, and I'm pro player, just to know where people can see where I'm coming from. I'm pro player 99% of the time. I'm rarely, if ever, siding with billionaire owners. What I am saying, though, is that if I'm the owner in this case, and I paid my player because I recognized how great he is, and I do care about him, and I know I made a mistake with the coach, that's why I fired his ass. Man, it shouldn't be so easy to have a guy sign a 4-year, $156 million deal and a year later be like, I want out, and now I got to do that? I got to do that? I've got my guy.
If the hypothetical is correct, if all these factors are correct, then I agree with you, but why are we creating the hypothetical where the owner's correct? Why can't Deshaun be correct?
Well, Deshaun can be correct, and that's very much what seems to be according to NFL insiders, seems to be the picture painted, right? I mean, they are phrasing things as if he was wronged. He certainly wasn't wrong financially.
That's correct.
He was not wrong. And it's usually about the money. So he was not wronged. Like when players get really screwed, it's always the money. This is not about the money. So we're entering into rarefied air here where it's not about the money. Jalen Ramsey wanted to get paid. Mm-hmm. And the Jaguars sucked, and they knew it, and they weren't going to win anytime soon, and he was making it very difficult for them, and they thought, well, we can get this, and this. Let's just do this. I mean, and he's a corner. This is the quarterback position and a great kid. I don't know, man. They what did they do? It's pretty clear. Yeah, you're right. It's pretty clear that owner may just. I don't know enough. Cal McNair, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's what with.
If you're ordering the interview, a serious NFL interview of Josh McCown, then I could see where the quarterback's like, Jesus. We went from O'Brien being mediocre to let's give him more control. Nuke's gone. And now I want maybe just hear me out on a couple of things. That's okay. We got it covered. We've got this operation buttoned up. Let's interview McCown.
Now,
okay.
These are different issues. Yes, that would seem a strange choice. McCown may go on to be a great coach somewhere.
Maybe.
It's entirely possible.
With no experience whatsoever beforehand.
That said, I just got done reading a lengthy article how that dude is beloved as a tactician and a guy that a lot of people think will be a great coach. Now,
Houston wants him to be their head coach, not a quarterback's coach.
I know. Well, he kind of was a coach this year. We know that, from afar. And he was also an emergency player coach in a weird way.
He might be great. Maybe. But
yeah. Those are.
Would you entrust a franchise quarterback that you just paid that much money to a first-time head coach?
No, I wouldn't. No, I would not be interviewing him as my guy. And I don't know anything about the guy they hired other than that he's been an assistant coach for 20 years. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. He may be a great coach. Who knows?
Apparently, he's a really good guy. I think that's exactly what's about to happen.
Yeah, they're trying to rebuild.
The guy who can break the news to the kids that come in. We ain't going to be good for a couple of years, but we're going to fight because we are Texans.
Well, we're certainly not going to be good when we get rid of our franchise quarterback after 1 year of a 4-year, $156 million deal.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zach Wilson from BYU.
This is just brutal. Final hour forthcoming. Hang in, a little W's and L's again. Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thank you for tuning to it. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything. If you do, go back and get caught up at your leisure, because we'll help you do that by posting all 3 hours to Apple Podcasts. Also, you'll find it in other forums where they house podcasts. You can find it that way. You can also email the show if you like. It's jcs@979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's @JCameronShow. Schedule day is always fun. Love schedule day. We did this in the first hour, and I wondered about this earlier today before I even came into the studio. I thought, if we double down like we have and like we're about to do on W's and L's, there's a very good chance that the W's and L's I predicted for hour number 1 are going to change for hour number 3. That we will have shifted because we'll have the debate again. And, when you're doing W's and L's in late January, it gets a little bit difficult. And you're subject to the whims of emotion, as I like to say. So I think that's where we're at. I feel pretty good. I like the schedule. Tom doesn't like the schedule. I like the schedule. I think it's fine. It's not hard. We just suck. That's the bottom line. It's not a hard schedule. We just suck. That's how you got to look at it, Tom. Every game's difficult, and you'd like to move it if you don't think you can win it.
No, I think we all agree baseline that we're not good at football anymore here in this university. And
haven't been in a while.
That's no good. I think from a season ticket standpoint, if you're trying to sell those, it's a decent schedule. You got a couple of November games. That's not bad.
Right.
That's always a plus. And you start with Notre Dame, so one of your hot weather games in September is actually a night kick on a Sunday of Labor Day weekend. That's much better than Monday.
Gotta like that.
So if you're trying to sell tickets, that's good. You've got some feathers in your cap. And having Miami as your final home game of the season in November.
Ooh, I love that. November 13th.
Also keeps people coming to the games in November. It's not like having South Alabama play, the week before Thanksgiving or something along those lines. However, you have a few tokens to spread around, like little freebies each year.
Yeah, the
one of
UMass
them's a
one.
bye, and 2 of them are the FCS or lesser than opponents that you schedule. And you just consolidated the hell out of that in October, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah, you have Jacksonville State in September.
That's one of your tokens.
And then UMass is in October.
And your bye week right before it.
Yeah, so
Good thing we're getting the rest for the UMass game.
Well, but we are not in control of that. So I'm more mad about the scheduling of UMass in a weird way. Paying them $1 million.
Correct, to play in October, which is not convenient at all.
Yeah, I would have liked to have had that maybe, let's say, if you think you can beat Florida, maybe the week before Florida. I'm with you on that. We don't know what the conference is going to do at any point with the bye week. But in terms of where the bye week falls, it's not terrible. I understand.
Yeah, if all things being equal.
Right.
Yeah, if you're playing, NC State the next week after the bye, I like it a whole lot more. It's just that, if you're playing a rivalry game at home, then you got to go on the road to Boston College and then come back home Thanksgiving week, go right back on the road to Florida, and you have a bye week in UMass right next to each other on the schedule, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, what I would say is it's like, here's where you're smacked in the face with reality about how bad we've been. If this were any other time in the last 30 years, you'd say, what a gift from the gods. They just gave us 3 weeks to prep for the Clemson game. Like, if we're any kind of decent where we've been in the past, where I'm not talking about juggernaut status. I just mean good, like 8-win team. You'd be like, what a gift. Can you believe this? We've got a bye week and UMass all before facing Clemson. I got 3 weeks to ready a game plan against our biggest rival in the conference, the biggest threat in the conference, in the division, if you will. I know our biggest rival is Miami, but you know what I mean. I would be celebrating to high heaven. But because we think it's a foregone conclusion that we're not even competitive in that game, you're kind of like, oh, well, thanks for nothing. Because we're just not competitive. But
yeah, you might as well take 3 weeks off.
Yeah, that's
Send
like
the backups to Clemson.
That's the frustrating aspect.
Give the kids a month off. Bring them back for NC State.
I will say this, and maybe this is the dreamer in me here. You got 3 weeks to put together a game plan for Clemson. Can we just be in the game in the second half? Can we just be in the game? You got 3 weeks. You don't have to prep for UMass at all, not even a little bit. can we be in the game? Can you conjure up something that allows us to be in the game? I'm not telling you can win the game. I'm not saying I expect to have a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. I want kickoff of the second half not to represent another hour and 45 minutes of wasted time. I want to be like, okay, we got a little 30-20 action here in the third quarter. All right, this is progress. Let's see if we can pull a scare in them here. Let's see if we can get them thinking about game management and situation. Maybe we can make them feel a little something because we haven't made them feel anything in a long time.
Given what we're handed, yes, I hope that's what happens. It's just, if you're trying to get to 7 or 8 wins, like you're trying to get on that W's and L's ledger, you're finding the way. Counting all these little victories, these little nuances in the schedule, back-to-back home dates. Ooh, that's good. Louisville and NC State here in a given year. That's much better than being on the road against those two teams.
That's right.
Great. That's worth a half a win to a full win in the grand scheme of mapping out the schedule. But you're fortifying a couple of weeks' worth of tokens so that you can feel better about a close result against Clemson or trying to get to the 7th or the 8th win. That's where I feel like it's a wasted opportunity. And I understand what you're saying. In most situations over the last 30 years, you'd be fine. But in truth, we're talking about a third of the time in the last 30 years, we have been pretty sorry. So, it's not all that much. And this will be year 4 in a row where Clemson's a foregone conclusion of a result.
Oh, no, listen, I'm not happy about that. Haven't been, but that's not new today. That's just where we're at. So you're just kind of like, all right, well, got to get better. Got to start taking steps to get a lot better. And I will also say, and I don't care how good the backup is, and we saw him for Clemson, surely they're going to take a step back at quarterback. You can't have 8 years running of the greatest quarterback play in the history of your program, and they did. That's just insane. Even if that kid is great, and he looks pretty good, he can't be as good as Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. He can't.
Ohio State has had exceptional quarterback play for the better part of 20 years, so I guess it's possible.
Well,
even when Cardale Jones comes in, they win a national championship. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I didn't think he was good. He was good for what they ran. I understand what you're saying.
But if you're just trying to get the most out of the position, to maximize, to beat up on the biatches in your conference. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's like Alabama, all right? They've had, prior to this late run here, they've had pedestrian quarterback play, but those numbers are all good. Those were all efficient and good quarterbacks. They were so overwhelmingly good at every other position, you were screwed. I think that kind of applies to Ohio State up there. And that's an interesting question just in general because you got me thinking about Justin Fields and what an interesting debate if you're an NFL team. Like, what is Justin Fields? Because he's all at once brilliant and at times for long stretches looks like the best quarterback available. And then other times you're like, I don't think he can play. Like, has there been a great player that has had that kind of polarization? It's weird.
So that the two being he's either great or he can't play?
Yes. Like, he's either incredible, Heisman candidate, maybe best player in college football, to I'm not sure he can play even a little bit.
Lamar?
At Louisville, he always could play within the realm.
I know. They lost to Kentucky. They lost 3 of their last 4 games that year they won the Heisman.
Remember that whole thing was falling to pieces.
Lost to Kentucky.
But we were never saying, like, well, I don't think he can, like, relative to his skill set.
I thought you were talking about the pros.
Oh, yeah.
Like, as it relates to draft scouts, that kind of thing.
Well,
because if that's the case, that happens, there are quite a few where you're like, Like Tebow, unbelievable college player. Like,
but no,
I don't think he can play.
Well, but we were all right about that. Yeah. I think everybody was right about that. Everybody but Denver. They were all right about it.
Johnny Manziel.
We were right
Mel
about
Kiper,
that.
Why not pick him first?
But that's nonsense, right? That's why we make fun of it. We never fell for the okie doke on that. We were right about that.
Oh, not us, but people. The greater conversation.
Well, how about this? I don't think too many people thought Johnny Manziel could play. I think most of the teams in the league weren't as dumb as Cleveland. They were like, he can't play. What are we doing? But Cleveland fell for it because that's what they do. And everybody knew Tebow couldn't play. But there's a difference between, like, you're a dominant college player, but you just do not project in any way, shape, or form to the NFL. Justin Fields is weird because it's a new NFL, and a lot of guys that don't play the position the way that we used to think of it now translate really well to the NFL, which is something we've celebrated. Thank goodness we've got variety. But what's weird with him, okay, so you bring up the Indiana game a lot. I watched that game as well. He had other games this year where you watched him and you're like, he doesn't read the field. He doesn't go through progressions. What's going on with the arm strength? It's gone all of a sudden. I don't know what's happening. It led me to say to you in our private conversations, I just think he's hurt. Like, I couldn't figure out what was wrong. But then that game, the playoff game.
Or he wasn't motivated? I don't know. And yet he was the one calling to play. He wanted to get back on the field and play.
I think he was hurt.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was towards the end, but wouldn't you think there'd be more evidence like the Clemson game when he was healthy to start the season? There really wasn't.
There really wasn't. I don't know if that's – again, this was a season unlike any other, so practice was disjointed. Right. There's a lot of that. His high-end performance, the performance against Clemson, is the dumbest thing in the world. That's the best performance of the year by anybody. It's a perfect night at the office. It's unreal. He makes every throw. He shows mental and physical toughness. He reads the field. He gets through his progressions. He's got the strongest arm I'd ever seen him have.
Takes a beating.
Hangs in there, does everything you would ask in a game of that magnitude against that team and that defense and that defensive coordinator. And, flick of the wrist, 60 yards on the money. Moving within the pocket, shuffling his feet to buy time and getting a release point. Everything you look at that you say, well, if he could do that, he's a star in the NFL. That was the weirdest player in year that we've seen in a while. But again, that could be COVID related. I don't know. Just the disjointed nature of the season.
Yeah, when you get to the next level, it's impossible. It really is, outside of a few players, because Deshaun Watson, there were arguments about yay or nay. Mm-hmm. Justin Herbert, there were arguments about yay or nay.
We both got that wrong, yeah.
Daniel Jones, mostly a nay. But the Giants and other teams thought top 5 or top 10 talent.
Well, it always takes one. That's what we've come to realize. Nobody thought that the Bears were making the right decision. Nobody thought that the Bears were making it. Nobody thought the Giants when they made the Daniel Jones decision. Nobody. Almost universally, we laughed our asses off. Everybody from novice draft people to experts to other teams kind of chuckling at them. And we got that right. Like, Trubisky can't play. We know that. Well, he's a marginal player. Let's put it that way. He's certainly not worthy to move up and
correct.
So sometimes you can still get it right.
If he's your quarterback, Matt LaFleur, maybe you do kick the field goal.
Correct.
Not 12.
No. Oh boy. All right, so let's do this for the benefit of our audience on the way home here. Let's have some fun with it. Here we go. W's and L's. W's. Wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost! We f***ing super lost, man!
Where do we triumph? Where doth thou fall? I think I came into today's show optimistic, man. I don't know what it is. Nothing's going to bring me down today. I'm in a good mood. The weather is perfect outside. Goodness gracious. It couldn't be a more beautiful day. I'm excited about the future of Florida State football. I can't wait to do W's and L's just like we did in the 3 o'clock hour. I have just been overly optimistic. All right, Notre Dame here in Tallahassee. Keeping in mind all that Notre Dame lost, Tom. You excited about Saturday, September the 5th on a Sunday night? Woo! Maybe a packed house. We're all pumped.
I feel better about that game than I do some in November because you're right. Notre Dame's got a lot to sort through, so it could be interesting. You could ambush them. As Jimbo Fisher said to Rex Ryan, maybe you Shanghai him.
I love when he said that. I have to tell you, along with this healthy dose of optimism I'm providing the people today, is a very cynical voice in the back of my head telling me, but what about Adam Fuller? It just keeps happening. Like, every time I start to do this, it's like, hey, man, you think that defense is going to tackle anybody? Are they going to be lined up? Are they going to be coordinated? You can be as excited as you want to be, Jeff, but you think that defensive coordinator's got a clue what the hell he's doing?
Are we real sure linebackers been shored up year over year?
So that's kind of the problem is that, that's back there. It's talking to me. It's not letting me go down crazy into the sea of optimism. It's kind of like, hey, man, I'm that life raft for you now. Don't get crazy. Don't go swimming out on your own out there thinking we're winning 9 games because you're excited about the offense with a real quarterback and excited about the offensive line's progress and at what we have at running back and the fact that you got to transfer to be a 1 receiver to come in here and all that. That's the stuff I get excited about. And that little birdie on my shoulder is like, hey, man, that defense looked real bad last year. like worst in the country bad. Like, what are we talking about here, Cameron? And that's what gets me down a little bit in the midst of this optimism. So I'm going to have to pick a L against Notre Dame because I don't trust the defense to get enough stops.
Yeah, it's an L, but it's a cover, so that's nice. Kyron Williams, though, is only a sophomore entering the season. Actually, truly a freshman because no eligibility.
That's right. That's true.
And that's absurd. And I don't believe we can tackle him consistently enough to win the football game. We might be in front of him, but I don't know that we'll tackle him. That dude is a man beast.
It's a fair point, Tom. Go ahead and mark the L down for the two of us there. 0-1.
19.
Tough 0-1 start for Florida State. Tom thinks it's a cover, though, so jump on board when those early numbers come out. Big bounce-back game a week later, September the 11th. Jacksonville State rolls into town and wants none of it. Noles big. 1-1 to start the season. All right, little 500 action. Okay, let's get it together, everybody.
I don't know what transfer quarterback they have that we've heard of in the past this year, but we'll find out, I'm sure, that week and go, oh, my God, they have him?
And he's playing exceptionally well, again, against this defense, which, again, seems to be a problem.
I don't think we're pleased at halftime because it's a little close for comfort, but then the Noles win by about 20 to 25 points.
All right.
1-1.
That's a blowout, Tom.
By our standards, my
That's
God.
a blowout. Saturday, September the 18th. Fresh off a big W, 500 on the year. We got a game to circle, everybody. We got a game to circle. Winston-Salem, North Carolina, September the 18th. Make or break kind of game for your season right here, right now. Got to go win that game, Tom. Got to make an announcement to everybody. We are not that team that you've been kicking out down by the dumpster the last few years. Our talent, our coaching, our preparation is such that we go and squeak out a win against Wake. We're 2-1, partner.
Okay.
2-1 with a road win in the conference.
Now a quality win on the road.
Quality win on the road.
That would be a fun week of shows to do because legitimately,
A
for
signifier.
how bad we are,
Yes.
you don't take Snuggy Hill routinely anymore. So you got to go take Snuggy
You
Hill.
got to go take it, plant the flag.
So they play, I believe. I looked at them. I don't know why only Wake Forest schedule, but Old Dominion.
I like that you did that.
Norfolk State to start the year.
I see where your head's at.
So they've got a 3-week lead up to getting ready for Florida State.
Well, they're getting geared.
But they won't be used to the Noles speed. The Noles
Too
speed.
much speed, Tom.
And the Noles skill.
Too much speed.
So I'm feeling, what do you think, 37-30? That feels good.
37-30. We come on the air. We celebrate the win. By the way, you are correct. They play on a Friday night against Old Dominion. I'm going to watch that game.
Ooh.
Celebrate that game. And then I'm going to skip their Norfolk State game. And obviously, I'll be locked in before they take on Florida State. That begins the stretch for them of Florida State, Virginia, and Louisville. Important time for Wake Forest. But this isn't Wake Forest radio. I don't care about their important time. They're going to start the important stretch with a loss at home. Question marks begin to surface around Wake Forest's situation as they lose at home to lowly Florida State. 2-1 go the Noles. 2-1 go Wake Forest, but with no quality wins.
That's right. And if I was a Wake Forest beat writer, I would put a loss to lowly Florida State.
You could write it.
Because it's the last time you can do it.
So the next thing you know, Noles brimming with a little bit of confidence. Feeling good about themselves after a cover against Notre Dame, according to Tom. A win, a thrashing over Jacksonville State. A road victory in the ACC. 2-1. They return home to good old Tallahassee, Florida on a late September Saturday. 25th, in fact. It's hot as Hades. Sitting in that stand, those stands thinking, I don't care that it's 105 degrees in late September and it ought to be cooler because it is everywhere else in the country. God has forsaken the state of Florida. I don't care about that because you know what? This time last year, I couldn't sit next to a stranger and watch a football game. I couldn't go through those gates and know that it's okay. I may encounter behavior that I wish I hadn't seen. I may have to rub elbows with people who I think are beneath me.
You really thought that one out. That is a crystal clear picture, 4K.
But that said, I want their presence next to me. I want to hear the ridiculous, what kind of call is that? Cry from the seats above me. I want to know that my fellow Noles are embracing the moment, celebrating the return of football. And the Noles avenge last year's thrashing to Louisville with a win, Tom. 3-1. 3-1 go to the Noles. And we are off and running because it's only lowly Syracuse coming to town the next week.
Goodness. Okay. So there was a Louisville prediction in there somewhere, right? The actual
3-1.
Okay, 3-1.
Win.
That should be a pissed off bunch of Noles, shouldn't it?
You ain't kidding. I'm
A
pissed off thinking about it.
pissed
I'm
off
mad right
bunch of
now.
Noles.
I'm angry.
And this time, Odell does not need to fight their fight for them, as he did in 2016.
That's true.
Embarrassing that an old man with 2 bad knees at the time is the only buddy who has any heart. We have heart that day. I'm
Big
sure we
win.
wear the black jerseys with garnet pants
No.
and the gold helmet.
Don't do that.
On the way to victory.
Big win.
41-38.
Woo! Getting by with a new and improved offense and real leadership at the quarterback position. Still 2 fingers to my eyes, 2 fingers back to you. At the defensive side of the ball is what we're telling you here early on, folks. A whole lot of high-scoring affairs here. 3-1, Tom, and we welcome Syracuse to town. It's a get-right day after we've already won 3 straight games, and the chatter surrounding Florida State football returns to the set of College game day. As they go through the nation's games that afternoon, they say, hey, keep an eye on Tallahassee, folks. Florida State's won 3 straight, bouncing back nicely since their opening game loss to Notre Dame the eve before Labor Day. Noles playing pretty well, a little bit of confidence, got that offense going.
You know what? You'll also have the player effect of the Urban Meyer deal, right? You know, where they would throw themselves at the feet of Urban Meyer at ESPN, and they will for the NFL. Mackenzie Milton's going to do that for the Noles.
You're damn right he is.
They're going to talk about
Good story, good young man, great leader.
Did you know he's from Hawaii? My God.
Overcome so much.
Comeback player of the year. They covered against Notre Dame in week 1. You know what? They might be in the others receiving votes category this week.
Game's not close. Florida State big over Syracuse. They continue the roll. 4-1 start to the season. We're into October and the Noles are 4-1. Staring a bowl game right in the face. Fans are getting pumped. That's a W.
This one's a big one. These other ones have been
Run
high-scoring,
away.
close affairs. You get a couple of short field turnovers.
Forget about it.
Man, they don't want none of that in Syracuse.
No.
Their coach was scared after they had the best season they've had in 20 years.
It's still hot. Still hot in Tallahassee.
That's a tough place to go. He knew something that we didn't at the time.
That they were going to suck.
When they get off that plane, they suck. They're going to get off that plane. They're going to suck. We're going to win.
Boom, 4-1. All right, so it's a good thing we've got off to a robust start, everybody. Next up, it's North Carolina and Chapel Hill. They're going to be slightly perturbed about the way things played out in Tallahassee on a Saturday night with the nation watching. No doubt, frustration. They've improved their roster considerably, done a very good job recruiting there. It was an ugly loss for Mac Brown, an embarrassing moment for the North Carolina program. Humiliating, some might say, to have lost to Florida State the way they did. They'll avenge the loss from a year ago. Mac Brown gets his first ever win against his alma mater. So there it is. North Carolina defeats Florida State in Chapel Hill. Noles get a little humble pie. 4-2 heading to the bye week.
Well, we got real problems that week because the 4-1 start is going to see that game placed in the primetime window.
Not good.
So night game, Chapel Hill, students fill the place. That place is post-COVID stuff.
Yeah, they're angry.
And they're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
That's 49-24 written all over it.
I like that score prediction. We moved to the bye week at 4-2, Tom. 4-2. We got question marks, but we've got some answers on one side of the ball. Still a lot of questions on the other side of the ball. A lot of 2 fingers to my eyes, 2 fingers to you. The conversation in Tallahassee on the Jeff Cameron Show is not only that, can you believe how much this show has grown? That show just gets so big. It's also about the program, not just the show. And they're going to say, hey, we may need to fire Adam Fuller. That's kind of going to be the discussion, the talking points. I'm getting about tired of watching all the points we're giving up here, the yards and the points. It's just too much to take, Tom. Why do we have to win every week 50-45? Can't we get a stop? Does anybody want to tackle anybody? Please, God, make somebody stop somebody on this defensive side. Get coordinated at some point. That's kind of the chatter around here. And it's bringing me down because I want to celebrate a 4-2 start, but I can't because this defense is a sieve.
And you're going to have 2 weeks of that, maybe more. But it's really, you go into the bye week pissed off about the defense. UMass isn't going to do anything to move that needle.
Doesn't matter. That's a W on the ledger, sir. That's 5-2. Come get you some, UMass. Take your million bones and get bent over. 5-2 Noles.
That's a really nice game for Corbin, too. I was really impressed with those 17 carries for $190. Really well done.
Love it. 5-2. The ability to reach out and touch a bowl game. Just there it is. I can see it. I can see you, bowl game. You're right there. I'm looking at you. Now, we're not going to be able to clinch that bowl appearance this next game. It's a good ways off. We're going to begin to wonder whether or not we even should think about going to a bowl.
So if Sean McDonough was calling the game, he most certainly would find a way to work that in. Noles looking today to become bowl eligible.
Yes.
This was a program that for years you could just put them in ink.
Record setting.
But it's been some time for the Noles looking for their 6th win today against Clemson.
Yeah, kind of a sleepy Saturday in Clemson, South Carolina. We regret that we'll do the pregame show for it. We don't want to talk about it, but we will. It's not going to go well. It's going to be an ugly day. We're not in the position to compete the way that we need to compete, the way that we'd like to compete, the way that we should compete as Noles. But can you make it? Can you make it to halftime not having thrown up all over yourself? If the answer is yes, and we're in a 10 to 14 point game in the third quarter, it's a little victory. It's a little victory. Doesn't count in the win column, but it's a little victory. Noles are 5-3, Tom. It's an L.
Yeah, that's an L. I think we might work in a little bit of basketball talk about the reigning national champion
Yeah,
Noles.
I like that conversation, yeah.
Because the exhibition season will be in just about a week's time. That'll be the pregame show against Clemson.
Yep.
I think Adam Fuller's going to have a good first half. We're going to say, what is this?
What is going on here? First one ever.
Followed by 350 for Clemson in the second half.
All right. Then we come home to a winnable game, and this is where you get down. Now, this is where you're down in the muck. This is where you got to fight for it, Noles. This is where it's got to happen now. We got to buck up, soldier. This is where you got to find your heart. It's getting later in the year. You've had some good moments. You've had some dark moments. You're a little frustrated. Hopefully there's not derision amongst them, that the offense isn't looking over there at the defense like, guys ever going to tackle somebody, going to make a stop ever? A lot of chatter in Tallahassee about the DC. Don't know if he's going to make it through the season, Tom. It's getting uglier by
Bob
the day.
Stoops might be available.
But NC State's imminently winnable. Could win that football game. I dare say should win that football game. Noles get the victory at home over NC State, baby, and they're bowl eligible. There it is. The Mighty Noles are 6-3. They win it 24-21.
Whoa!
A war.
What is going on here?
What a game on Saturday, November the 6th.
I can confirm for you that Bob Stoops was in attendance today, but the Noles told him to go home. Fuller turned in a 21-point defensive effort.
What a gem for
4.6 yards per play. What an improvement for the Noles.
24-21. Noles get the win. Poor quarterback play dooms North Carolina State. Just poor quarterback play as always.
And some rain.
That's it. 24-21. Noles get the win. That's win number 6. Forget about it. That win has us presuming some things that we ought not presume. We're beginning to feel our oats. We're starting to think maybe we're better than we are. But we're not that good. But we're not as bad. We host Miami, an arch rival. There's hunger in the air. We want to believe that the losing streak comes to an end. It's hard to imagine we have a losing streak to those bums to begin with. It's so frustrating. And so we convince ourselves that we're going to beat Miami on November the 13th. But we're living a lie because we're not going to beat Miami on November the 13th. Count that as a loss. The Noles go to 6-4. And it's a hell of a come down after getting bowl eligible the week before with a surprise upset victory over NC State.
Now, this is a week where there is blood in the water.
Okay.
And that blood had traveled up from the south.
Because usually this is where the Canes are about to quit on the season. You are correct.
And they've already suffered 4 losses to this point in the year.
What a setback.
You talk about derision and division.
Oh, buddy.
They're calling for his head. They're calling for the
They're
headman's
done
head
with him.
again. Those players show up for the first quarter. We beat it out of them because Milton lives for moments like this. A fully healthy Mackenzie Milton.
And a packed house.
Explosive in the first half.
Oh.
Noles hold on. 38-28.
Well, what a win indeed. 6-4 for me, 7-3 for T. Lizzie.
Good thing we banked those 7.
Bullish. Up the Chestnut Hill we go. An improved Boston College program, at least from last year. Certainly well coached, disciplined, focused. Cold weather up in Boston. At the last second, I decide to pull a trigger. Get on a plane and head up to Boston. See my brother in New Hampshire. Go to Legal Seafood. Have one too many drinks. Stumble about downtown Boston as I'm wont to do. Go to this football game only to see a loss in the chilly weather, leaving me wondering, are we ever going to turn the corner? As I sit down, aisle seat to fly back to Tallahassee, Florida. But a good time was had in Boston. Could not bring back the W.
My prediction is if we both go, we will find whatever bar we found post-game for 20 minutes.
Which is great,
Which
yes.
was a gorgeous, gorgeous
Yes.
establishment.
Yes, it
we
was.
got off at a random train stop.
It was amazing.
Yes. Also, you will use the restroom before you leave Boston
Holy
proper.
Jesus. You're not kidding. You got no hope if you try to leave. They don't stop. They don't stop. 49 stops.
One for every year you've been on this
Woo!
earth, plus one,
Woo!
you'll still need to use the restroom because you're getting up there.
Yeah.
Once we get through the 84 stops.
Yeah.
The Noles don't win this one. We're feeling really great, and that's just a stalwart defensive effort from Boston College.
Tough one.
20-17 loss. That sucks. Missed 3 kicks.
So I've got a 6-5 at this point, I do believe, and you've got us at 7-4.
That's correct.
Down to Gainesville we go. We conclude the season with a loss. The Noles go 6-6. They do go to a bowl. It's a terribly sad way to end the season, but with 3 straight losses. But we're holding on to that NC State game, Tom. We're really holding on to that big win, and we saw real progress. I sense that maybe you think that there's real confusion, anger, frustration, derision in Gainesville, too.
That's correct, because there will be. Dan Mullen's over-under for stupid press conferences at this point in the year, late November, would be 3.5.
Okay.
And that booster community fancies themselves some sort of bastion of
Yeah.
doing things the right way. And so they'll be embarrassed, and you'll see these headlines about Dan Mullen's job maybe being up for grabs. Now, is that enough to win the football game? No, but it's enough
It's a close game?
that it's a close game, and now you've got evidence of a win over Miami in my book, a close loss to Florida, and much improvement across the board in terms of culture. And you could parlay that into maybe swinging a couple of kids from Gainesville and Coral Gables up to Tallahassee. Successful season at 7-5.
Well, you're right. The booster community in Gainesville will have had their fill of the idiocy of one Dan Mullen. They do fancy themselves, however possible, I don't know, a paragon of virtue. But you are right. They will probably tisk for yet another dumbass comment.
Completely ignoring them, more than a third of their roster under Urban Meyer, and that last championship team has been arrested. A third of the roster.
Okay, so you've got us at 7-5. I had 6-6.
Eventful season, though, wasn't it?
Very fun season. A little bit different than the one we played out in the 3 o'clock hour. So depending on which part of the show you caught today, you caught a really overly optimistic Tom Lang or a down in the dumps thinking that what is going to remain. And, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll do it again next week. And a much-needed break right now. By the way, yesterday it was the SEC that returned to a normal schedule, and all of our scheduling talk just now, we didn't really kind of gloss over the entirety of the ACC, but they too returned to a normal 8-conference game, divisional format with Notre Dame as an independent. So that too is returning to normal. 2021 football kicking off in September is going to look like it did in previous non-COVID years as far as out of conference and all that other stuff. That's what we got. Of course, we made the changes to the schedule to play during the coronavirus pandemic, including Notre Dame as a full-time conference member for the singular season. That is not the case now. But obviously, Clemson is an overwhelming favorite to win the ACC again. But that said, they open the season against Georgia on September the 4th in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that'll be a fun game. Fun game.
They will. I was looking at Florida's schedule during the break, and boy, they lay it out as best as they possibly can most every year, especially given that Alabama is on the Gator schedule, and you said that yesterday when you were going the first few weeks.
I was happy to announce that Florida played Alabama.
Me too, because if they didn't, they might fake their way to 10-2 again. And how in the mighty SEC you can fake your way to 10 wins?
Well, you just got to be in the East.
That's correct.
Where only Georgia is good.
And you start with FAU and USF to begin your season if you're the Florida Gators. FAU and USF.
Be careful. They could lose to USF.
What?
Florida lost a lot. They feel like a team in shambles.
They go Bama, Tennessee. Tennessee ain't gonna be nothing.
Woo! Not for many years to come.
At Kentucky, come on, Mark. Can you do it?
He's done it before.
They host Vandy. No. They're at LSU. Is LSU gonna muscle up this year and be good enough to beat Florida?
I think well, they did beat Florida last year, but in Gainesville.
That's right, they did. Oh,
yeah, they did. Yeah,
the shoe game.
You mean 2 in a row is what
Can
you're
they
asking.
beat them twice in a row?
Yeah. I don't know.
Can
Maybe
Brad Johnson's son engineer another beautiful win over the Gators?
He might. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that was not a troll. That would have been an expert troll, but I can't take credit for it.
I thought you were just serving up the softball for me to jump on. Yeah,
man, that happened. I watched it.
Yes, I did too. I watched it in grand celebratory fashion, buddy. I'm still wishing I was watching it. It was glorious.
Unsportsmanlike conduct, throwing his cleat 30 yards down the field.
It was a glorious thing, my friend.
In the lead up to us, they get Samford and at Missouri before they play us.
By the way, I just want you to know there's some good numbers in my favor for one of these side leagues that I'm in the golf right now, Tom. I just checked on it while we're wrapping up the show here.
Was this the weekend thing that you sent yesterday, or is this your daily that you're not sharing with the public for free?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. The daily is doing very well.
Dailies.
These dailies
what I got to do? I got to bring some coffee stouts with me on a Wednesday.
These dailies are good here. I like these.
Because your weekly was, I still have the list, is Charles Howell III, Jason Kokrak, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Reed, Alec Ogletree.
Well, Patrick Reed got off to a great start today, Tom.
Andy Ogletree. Alec is an actual real sports player. And Malnati, Peter Malnati.
Peter Malnati at one point, when last I checked, was in the top 5, Tom.
Is that so?
I'm just going to point that out. Now, listen, I have not gone back to look since. I'm sure he fell off. But it's pretty amazing that a guy nobody's ever heard of was selected by yours truly with the last pick in his draft, and he was sitting in the top 5. It just pays to work in golf.
But this is also where watching a lot of golf is just, how your brain works and you don't know how your brain works sometimes, because you said Malnati, I'm like, Peter Malnati, and I don't know how I know that.
Like, why do
you
know
tell you? I can't tell you what his swing looks like. I can't tell you about anything he's ever done in terms of like a highlight on. Remember 15 at Augusta for Malnati?
Well, you shouldn't know that. But let me tell you why you know Malnati is that he kind of is sneaky on Thursdays and Fridays. The other reason that you might know Malnati is that I almost said something.
That's some bitch
can putt. And you're just hoping he has a day where everything goes in, because he does that. He has those days. It's crazy on the tour, by the way. They're just got Jonas Blix, when he's not hurt, he hits it all over the lot. He can't hit it far. He can't hit it straight. And he makes every putt. Every putt. 50-foot putt for Blix. Oh, look at that. Center cup. It's the dumbest thing in the world. And Trey said he was like that here, that he just putted everything.
In a match play setting, that would be the most demoralizing thing in the world.
Like this guy has to make a 35-footer for par. Drained it. Okay. On to the next.
And I've got an 18-footer that's straight downhill left to right.
Yeah.
don't want to leave this short,
Yeah.
but I don't want to blow it by because he just made his 35-footer.
And he's going to keep doing it. It's ridiculous,
Oh,
these guys.
shoot. I've got a 6-footer left.
That's a magical thing. The ability, like Tiger's entire run of his career before he got older, was that he would make the difficult par putt that you wouldn't make in those situations. A slippery right to left to right or right to left or whatever. He would always make it 7 feet to save par on a difficult center cup. He would just make that putt. But I don't get that. Putting to me seems so. It's not random. I know the stroke matters and your ability to read a green, man. I feel like putting's the one thing where it's sort of the mind's eye and your ability almost to will it into the cup. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's also like if you look at some of the, I don't know if they use these graphics anymore, but remember like the little wave they showed on CBS, and it's like if you want to be aggressive, you can go straight at it.
Yeah.
But then you can also go
You
inside
can bend
the
it
door if you
in.
tap-
You can
yeah.
use it.
Tiger would go straight at it in those moments.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't care.
Like if he ever thought about missing, he would consider the fact that he go 15 feet by.
But he never thought
But
about
he never
missing.
thought about missing.
Hank Haney had to beg him to not do that because he came up with a stat. He walked in and said that the number one stat for those that go on to win majors is no 3-putts. Tiger, you can eliminate 3-putts. Just stop going at it with everything in your being. Tiger would argue with him. Well, I don't know how. I need you to not blow this 9 feet.
Well,
past.
I'll tell you how.
Yeah.
Stop the ball near the hole.
Lay it up. Putt to a circle. No, I'm trying to make it. Well, that's why he's who he is. What are you supposed to tell them? Not, don't do that.
He's Matt Foley. Well, Lottie freaking da. We got Bill Shakespeare over here, Dad.
Oh,
He's trying to make
actually,
everything.
I've encouraged his writing. Shut your yapper, Dad. Oh, we'll come back and wrap it up. That's fun. Putting is weird, really weird. That's all. Thanks for listening. Good times. We took up the vast majority of the hour just doing W's and L's because, damn it, that's the way it should be. Good work out of you, Tom. Good work, Matthew. Be well, everybody. Have a great night. Scuttlebuck's up next. Stay tuned. Good show. You'll enjoy it.
Slancha.
Content for days. That's what we are, a content factory. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace.